Chapter 1347. He was done with his day's work. Stephen stretched. He felt as if he had been blessed by God. Usually, editing was a more painful and complicated process than filming. A 120-minute movie might have dozens of hours and thousands of scenes. A scene might have 3 or 4 camera shots, and the most suitable one would be picked. Or 2 scenes that looked similar would take a long time to decide which one to use. However, Stephen and his editing team seemed to be on steroids. Stephen had a very clear picture in his mind. If not for his stamina and the team's endless complaints, Stephen probably wouldn't even want to rest. Just then, Stephen's phone rang. "Grandpa, Mom's sick, but she doesn't want to go to the hospital." "Huh? Okay. Are you at home?" "I'll go over now." Stephen rubbed his forehead. Stephen was about to get off work too. He left the studio and hurried to Daly's home. Daly Moore was Stephen and Halifa Oliver's only daughter. However, because of their divorce, Daly Moore had a very bad relationship with them. In recent years, they might not even see each other once a year. When they did, it was mostly for arguments. Only his granddaughter would be in contact with Stephen. Stephen arrived at his daughter's house. He saw that Hal was there too, so he greeted him. Hal had once worked for Stephen too. They were familiar with each other. "How's Daly?" Stephen asked. "Mr. Stephen, it's best to send Daly to the hospital," Hal said. "I feel like something's wrong with her." "Then send her to the hospital," Stephen said. "It's not up to her now." No matter how bad their relationship was, they were still father and daughter. Sannell called an ambulance. By then, Daly had already fallen into a deep sleep. After arriving at the hospital, Hal was in charge of explaining Daly's symptoms to the doctor in charge of emergency treatment. After the doctor's examination, the doctor said to Stephen, "Strange. Miss Daly's physical examination is very strange. She seems to have low blood pressure for no reason. We can't find the cause yet, and she's in a bad condition." The low blood pressure made her unconscious. "What should we do now?" Stephen asked. "We still need to observe. We have to find the cause of the low blood pressure." "Okay." The next morning, Daly Moore's condition worsened. Generally speaking, low blood pressure is caused by diseases of the internal organs. The function of the internal organs is diseased, which affects blood pressure. Similarly, low blood pressure could also lead to changes in bodily functions. Stephen and Sannell were woken up by the emergency doctor. "Mr. Stephen, Miss Delamore's condition has suddenly become critical. At 6:45 this morning, Miss Delamore's liver is malfunctioning, and her other internal organs have also shown varying degrees of failure. She's out of the emergency room now, but her condition is still not optimistic." Stephen was already quite tired at this time, but his daughter was now in the intensive care unit, so he had to keep his spirits up. However, the hospital's performance made him a little disappointed. Until now, the hospital had not found the reason. "Can you cure my daughter or not?" Stephen asked with a pale face. "Mr. Stephen, please believe us. We're trying our best to save him and find the cause. Every year, 10% of the patients in the world can't find the cause. It's useless even if you force me," the doctor said helplessly. Stephen fell silent, which made Sanner even more anxious. "Grandfather, what do we do now?" "It's okay. I'll think of something," Stephen comforted him. After thinking for a while, Stephen suddenly thought of Chen Zhao. Perhaps Chen Zhao had a way. Before, Stephen had thought that if the hospital could cure his daughter's illness, he would not need to find Chen Zhao anymore. But now, it seemed that he had no choice but to seek Chen Zhao's help. "Hey, Chen, my daughter is in the hospital now. She's very sick and the hospital can't find the cause. Can you come over and help me take a look at my daughter? Stephen called. Which hospital? Chen Zhao asked. After all, it was Stephen's family. Chen Zhao could not refuse. Stephen told Chen Zhao the hospital's address. Give me 30 minutes. I'll be there as soon as possible. Okay. 30 minutes later, Chen Zhao arrived at the hospital. Stephen. Seeing Chen Zhao, Stephen was overjoyed. But when Sanner, who was beside Stephen, saw Chen Zhao, his expression turned strange. How come it's you? You're the girl with the leg cramp yesterday. Chen Zhao was also surprised. Stephen, who is she to you? This is my granddaughter, Sanner. Her mother is sick. Grandpa. Mom got a fright at your house and fell sick when she got home. Sanner blamed Chen Zhao. She felt that her mother's illness had something to do with Chen Zhao. Surprise appeared on Stephen's face. He pulled Chen Zhao to the side. Chen, my daughter's illness has something to do with you. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Your daughter ran to my door and made a ruckus yesterday. I only asked Princess to chase her away. I didn't do anything to her. If I did, she wouldn't be in the ward right now. She'd be in the morgue. That's right. You really didn't do it. Take me to see your daughter first, Chen Zhao said. Stephen nodded and brought Chen Zhao to the ICU. As soon as Chen Zhao entered the ICU, he felt that something was wrong. Magic rippled in the air. Vaguely, Chen Zhao felt that something was wrong. Chen Zhao examined Daily more. Indeed, it was as Chen Zhao had expected. Chen, how's Daily more? Stephen, ask her to leave first, Chen Zhao said, pointing at Sanner. Is there something I can't know? Sanner didn't want to leave. Sanner, leave first. I don't want to. I want to watch Mom. Sanner, I know you care about your mother. For her sake, leave first. It's not the time for you to throw a tantrum. Very unwillingly, Sanner was persuaded to leave the ICU by Stephen. Your daughter got a fright at my door yesterday. It's not a big problem. But how did she become like this? You know I have some special abilities, Chen Zhao said. I know. Stephen nodded. Your daughter and I are the same kind of person. Ha! Your daughter is a witch. My daughter is a witch. How come I didn't know? Chapter 1348. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Stephen was shocked. Chen, you have to save my daughter. Don't worry, Chen Zhao said. I've stabilized her condition. It won't worsen. You said that my daughter is a witch. Is that true? She can't be considered a complete witch yet. She needs to go through a real trial of life and death before she can gain magic power and learn magic. Only then can she become a real witch. You said that she went through a trial of life and death. Then what? After she wakes up, she'll definitely be attacked by all sorts of evil spirits within 3 days. That's a trial of life. Then what? Can you protect her? Gaia can protect her. She doesn't need my protection, Chen Zhao said. Ha! Gaia, she too. Gaia is very powerful. She can handle most situations. Don't worry, Chen Zhao said. Are you sure my daughter will be fine? Don't worry, Chen Zhao said. She'll be fine. Do I need to tell her specifically? No need, Chen Zhao said coolly. Just don't let her leave Gaia's sight for 3 nights after she wakes up. Stephen heaved a long sigh, but he was still worried. How about you watch my daughter for me? I'm not free. Chen Zhao rejected him without thinking. Chen Zhao really didn't like Stephen's daughter's temper. If the woman wasn't Stephen's daughter, Chen Zhao might not even help her. Chen Zhao didn't think that he had a good temper to watch over her for 3 days. Okay, I'll find Gaia. Give her this potion in 3 batches, Chen Zhao said. I gave her one just now. Give her the second batch in 6 hours. Okay, got it. Stephen accepted the potion. After a moment of hesitation, he said to Chen Zhao, Chen, I'm sorry for my daughter's offense. You are you, and your daughter is your daughter, Chen Zhao said. Just like how I believe that you won't stand by if something happens to Jerlin in the future. But that doesn't mean that I can accept her, so you don't have to apologize to her. In fact, this wasn't a big conflict, nor was there any deep hatred between them. Chen Zhao didn't plan to fight to the death. He was just expressing his attitude. Stephen was Stephen, and his daughter was his daughter. Of course. Jerlin is my goddaughter. When the two left the ICU, Sanger immediately went up to them and asked anxiously. Grandpa, how's Mom? She's fine, Zhao said. Jerlin, Stephen said. He's the one who killed Mom, so he came here to pretend to be a good guy. Sanel. Stephen's tone became more serious. Is this what your mother taught you? Chen, Sanger said, Chen. Stephen, I'm leaving. Chen Zhao didn't want Stephen to be stuck in the middle. After Chen Zhao left, Zhao Tt. With Gaia's current strength, he would be able to put up a fight even against the Third Knight's Awakening. T's right, T. Zhao, Chenl Chint, Zhao said. T. Even if Dahlia's talent was heaven-defying, at the age of almost 50, her talent had mostly been worn down. Chen Zhao didn't think she could awaken on the third night. It was most likely the first night. It was still the same reason, he was too old. Gaia agreed. After talking to Gaia, Chen Zhao got another call from Kefui Bus. Mr. Chen, do you have time? I feel itchy and prickly. That's normal, Chen Zhao said. You don't need me to treat you. Usually, patients with STD were more fragile and easily paranoid, even letting their imaginations run wild. Most STDs weren't hard to treat, but patients sometimes wondered if they had AIDS. Chen Zhao had met a patient like that before. The biggest enemy of STDs wasn't the disease, but themselves. Because the disease was painful, doctors had to help. First, they couldn't hide the disease. They had to communicate with the patient gently. Before Kefui Bus was diagnosed, she didn't feel anything. But after the diagnosis, Kefui Bus had been restless. Mr. Chen, I feel like everyone in the manor knows what disease I have. They look at me strangely, Kefui Bus said in a low voice. Kefui Base said in a low voice, they're talking about me behind my back. Once I get close, they stop talking. You're worrying too much. Only you and I know. There won't be a third person. Trust me. No, there's another person. My husband, that bastard. That bastard infected me with the disease. How about this? I'll go to your house in the afternoon, Chen Zhao said. Okay, come for lunch. I'll prepare lunch for you. No need. I still have work. I'll only come in the afternoon. Okay, please be quick. In the afternoon, after eating lunch, Chen Zhao went to Kefui Bus Manor. Since he'd taken the money, he had to do what he could. Comforting the patient was also a doctor's job. He couldn't just give her the medicine and leave her alone. Chen, you're here. Have you eaten? How about I ask the kitchen to make some food for you? No, thank you, Chen Zhao said, smiling. How's your body? How about we take a walk? Sure, let's go. Kefui Bus nodded. Kefui Bus didn't look too good. It wasn't the disease itself, but her mental state. Plus, she didn't wear makeup, so she looked rather haggard. Actually, your disease isn't serious. It's actually a common disease, but before you're sure your husband's cured, don't have sex with him. No, I won't let him touch me again, Kefwebus said. I'll divorce him this month. Kefwebus' face was filled with anger. Her tolerance for Oni had reached its limit. Chen Zhao wouldn't interrupt a patient's relationship problems. Take 30 minutes to exercise every day. Whether it's aerobic or anaerobic exercise, it can increase your immunity. Chen, I plan to move to the suburbs for a few days. What do you think? Chapter 1349. Is this your house too? Chen Zhao asked. It was a bit far from Los Angeles. Rich people in America like to build houses far from cities, but this place was too far. It was at least 50 kilometers. Yes, the environment is nice, right? It was indeed nice. It was in a forest and the surrounding trees had been planted and decorated. It was indeed nice. However, the villa wasn't very big. Perhaps it was to be close to nature, so it was only around 300 square meters. Flowers and plants were planted around it. But is it okay for you to live alone? Chen Zhao asked. After all, it was far from the city. It was dangerous to live here alone. Especially since Kefwebus was a super rich person. If she lived here, it would be hard for her bodyguards to stay here. Thank you for your concern, Kefwebus said. No one will disturb me here. Since she had already decided, Chen Zhao didn't bother to say more. After all, he was in no position to persuade her. People in America cared about their privacy. Even good friends wouldn't interfere with other people's decisions too much. Plus, Chen Zhao and Kefwebus only knew each other. Among Chen Zhao's many patients, Kefwebus was relatively easy to get along with. So, Chen Zhao didn't have any bad feelings for her. That was all. Even for friends like Steven or Rasfa, if they wanted to move to such a remote place, Chen Zhao would only tell them to be careful. He wouldn't try to persuade them not to live so far away. There aren't any beasts nearby, so there won't be any danger, Kefwebus said. The most dangerous ones aren't necessarily the beasts. With Kefwebus's intelligence, she could obviously tell that Chen Zhao was reminding her. It's getting late. I should leave. Are you staying for dinner? My girlfriend's pregnant, Chen Zhao said. She needs my company more. Kefwebus smiled. All right then, goodbye. If you feel uncomfortable, you can call me at any time. After you finish the painkillers I left for you, you'll be fine. Also, remember to wash up after exercising and wipe yourself dry. Don't let your lower body get wet. Goodbye. Chen Zhao nodded. Okay. I'll remember that. Bye. After Chen Zhao left, Cliff Base called Mansari. Mr. Mansari, I've moved to the suburbs according to your request. The rest is up to you. I don't want anything to go wrong. Of course, I guarantee you won't get hurt, Mansari said confidently. Kefwebus's original plan was to get Mansari and his intelligence department to help her find Oni's overseas account information. However, Oni was too careful. Even the intelligence department of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department couldn't find any relevant information. However, Mansari found out that Oni seemed to be in contact with some gang members. So he speculated that Oni couldn't wait and wanted to make a risky move to kill Kefwebus. Therefore, Mansari took the initiative to propose a bold plan to let Kefwebus move to another place without her bodyguards. He used himself as bait and waited for Oni to take the bait. Then Mansari arranged for someone to protect Kefwebus. To put it bluntly, this was a trap. That's smelly. Oni was so angry that he couldn't control himself. When he heard that Kefwi Base and that Asian had gone to a villa in the suburbs, he almost lost his mind. She did it on purpose. She wanted to embarrass him. Every time he thought about how his wife was flirting with another man, Oni felt his blood boil. Even though he and Kefwi Base no longer had any feelings for each other, they were only husband and wife in name. But as a man, he still couldn't tolerate something like this happening right under his nose. After smashing everything in the room into smithereens, Oni gradually calmed down. However, his expression became more and more hideous. Oni picked up the phone again. "Hey, Fernandez, how's your preparation?" "Don't keep rushing me," Fernandez roared. "If you keep rushing me, we'll cancel our cooperation." $300 million. $300 million. I want you to kill that bitch in 3 days. Fernandez was silent for a long time. "I'm not ready yet," he said. "That woman has already moved to the suburbs. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and she didn't bring any bodyguards with her. If we miss this opportunity, when she gets bored of living in the suburbs and moves back to her current manor, it won't be so easy to make a move on her." Fernandez thought for a moment. Wasn't that what he wanted? "I'll do it as soon as possible." "I have one more request," Oni said. "What is it?" Fernandez asked unhappily. "I want that bitch's lover to die too," Oni said with a hideous expression. "That's easy. I'll send someone to kill him after this," Fernandez said. "No, I want to kill him in front of that bitch." "What do you want me to do?" "Control that bitch first, then tell her to call her lover here." At this moment, Oni was frantically imagining the scene. The more he thought, the more excited he became. The more excited he was, the more he couldn't control himself. Due to the huge pressure recently and the embarrassment Kefwi Base had given him, Oni's mental state had always been in a tense state. It wasn't just recently. Ever since he started pursuing Kefwi Base, he had been very careful. However, Kefwi Base was like most rich people. She didn't let love and marriage go to her head. She didn't give him any benefits in the prenuptial agreement. After getting married, Oni couldn't control his lower half and found more than 10 lovers outside. After years of hard work, if Kefwi Base kicked him out of the house, he would have nothing left. Even though he had gotten almost $100 million from Base Corporation through embezzlement, it wasn't enough for him. He didn't want that, but more money. Moreover, he believed that Kefwi Base would definitely sue him in court if she divorced him. At that time, he would be in an even more miserable state. Oni was already helpless now. Chapter 1350. Achoo, Chen Zhao sneezed. Fei Lai distanced herself from Chen Zhao in disgust. "Why didn't you tell me you had a cold?" Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. Cold? That didn't exist. Unless it was magic allergy. But he hadn't devoured anything recently. How could he be allergic to magic? Chen Zhao usually wouldn't devour enemies directly. Most of the time, he would just kill them and destroy the evidence. Devouring could increase his magic power in a short period of time, but it was also risky. Magic allergy was a very troublesome symptom. It could also get out of control. But Chen Zhao only sneezed. He didn't have any other symptoms. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. "Hey, Gaia." "Chen, do you have a conflict with this woman?" "A small one," Chen Zhao said calmly. "I think I know why you two have a conflict," Gaia said. Gaia hung up after exchanging a few words with Chen Zhao. Just then, Daily Moore, who'd finished the discharge procedures, looked at Gaia. "I said, don't follow me. I don't need a bodyguard." Gaia followed Daily Moore the entire time. When Daily Moore drove away, Gaia followed behind her. When Dalymore returned home, she wanted to stop Gaia outside, but Gaia drove her Hummer and smashed the metal door open. "You crazy woman!" Dalymore rushed out of the car and roared at Gaia, "I'm calling the police. 3 days at most. After 3 days, whether you live or die, I won't follow you," Gaia said calmly. "That's what I promised Mr. Stephen." "How much money did he pay you?" "I'll pay you double. Get out of my sight now." Gaia still looked at Dalymore coldly. Furious, Dalymore turned around and left. She even swaggered into Dalymore's house. "This is my house. I didn't allow you to come in. If you have any objections, you can tell Mr. Stephen," Gaia said. "If he thinks I'm unnecessary, I'll leave." Dalymore was furious. She didn't know what that old asterisk shoal was thinking. He'd arranged a bodyguard for her for no reason. "Will you only follow me for 3 days?" Dalymore asked. 3 days at most. What do you mean? Is it possible that it will only be a day? Or 2? Yes. Why? Dalymore didn't understand. "You'll understand when the time comes," Gaia said. Ridiculous. Dahlia hated riddles the most. "The things in my house are all very expensive. You'd better not touch them." Dalymore turned and went upstairs. "I'm going to bed. Do you want to follow me?" Gaia sat in the living room, ignoring Dahlia Moore's sarcasm. After Dalymore went upstairs, she took out her phone and called Stephen. "Dad, what do you mean? That woman is the bodyguard you arranged for me." "Not really a bodyguard. She will only be by your side for 3 days at most. During these 3 days, she will protect your safety." "I don't need a bodyguard. Even if I do, I have the money to hire one myself. Your money belongs to me and your mother. Your company's annual income comes from the business I introduced to you, so you have no right to refuse my arrangements." Dahlia gritted her teeth. Even though she and her parents were like fire and water, Dahlia had no choice. Even though she and her parents were like fire and water, she had to admit that her career relied heavily on her parents. If his mother hadn't been Halifa Oliver, if his father hadn't been Stephen, would he still have received so many Hollywood contracts? She really wanted to tell her father, "I don't need your help." But she couldn't bring herself to say it. Even now, she didn't have the courage to say no to her father. If she really dared to say it, her father would really take away all the resources. "Where's Sannel? Why don't I see her?" "She's staying with me for a few days," Stephen said. "Don't worry about her. She's much more mature than you." Dahlia tossed her phone aside and lay on the bed. She slept from morning to evening. Just then, Dahlia opened her eyes, stimulated by a fragrance. Dahlia stood by the window and saw Gaia barbecue by the pool. The fragrance was Gaia's barbecue. Dahlia also felt a little hungry. After washing up, she came downstairs. "You're barbecuing at my house. Are you going to say that I made the decision on my own again?" Gaia looked up at Dahlia and picked up a bottle of wine. "Do you want some?" Dahlia took the bottle and looked at it. "Nameless wine." "No, it's tens of thousands of dollars a bottle." Dahlia found a glass. The moment the wine was poured, the fragrance filled the air. "It really is nameless wine." Dahlia was a little dumbfounded. "Where did you get it?" After all, she was a loyal fan of nameless wine. But she didn't have any connections. She occasionally went to the black market to buy it, and one bottle cost nearly $300,000. Even she couldn't drink it to her heart's content. Everyone knew that nameless wine was the best investment to maintain one's value. In the past 2 months, the number of nameless wines sold in Mara's supermarket had clearly decreased. This caused the nameless wine to become extremely scarce on the black market. The price had risen by another $20,000. Before Mara's supermarket's batch of nameless wine arrived next month, the black market price would probably exceed $310,000. Dahlia didn't expect Gaia to have nameless wine. Dahlia looked down and saw a DUI beside Gaia. There were also a few bottles of nameless wine on it. Where did you get so much nameless wine? Ask your father and see if he's willing to tell you, Gaia said calmly. My father knows. But thinking about it, with her father's status, it wasn't strange for him to know the source of nameless wine. Dahlia also ate the barbecue with Gaia. After eating, Gaia moved her wine rack back to the Hummer. How about you sell me those bottles of wine? I'll buy them for $300,000 a bottle. I don't lack money, Gaia said of course. Gaia had tens of millions of dollars herself. Moreover, Chen Zhao had given the wine to her. He definitely didn't want to sell it for money. Ha! Dahlia suddenly saw her daughter standing in the dark living room with her back facing her. Sanger, when did you come back? Dahlia walked into the living room and reached out to grab Sanger's shoulder. However, when Sannel turned around, he saw a bloody face. Ah! Dahlia screamed. Chapter 1351. Bang! Suddenly, a fist smashed into Sanger's face. Instantly, Sanger's head exploded. Then his body turned into a puff of smoke. Then. You killed my daughter. Daly's lips trembled. That's not your daughter. No. Isn't that my daughter? Dallamore's mind was a little confused. Just now, what happened just now? That's why I'm with you, Gaia said calmly. You can go to sleep now. Looks like it's your first night. What do you mean? What are you talking about? You don't need to know. You can sleep peacefully. No one will hurt you. Do you think I can sleep now? She'd only woken up for less than an hour. Even if she really needed to sleep, she couldn't. Tell me, what's going on? Are you sure you want to know? Of course. I need to know. I don't want to be treated like an idiot. You were sick earlier, which is a sign of your magic awakening. In the next 3 days, many evil spirits will attack you, so I need to protect you for 3 days, Gaia said. Seems like you'll attract evil spirits tonight. It'll save me some time. Daly's mind went blank. My father knows too. He only knows a little, Gaia said. Gaia sat back on the sofa. Sit down. Don't be so nervous. There aren't any dangerous evil spirits on the first night. I've dealt with them a few times before. Gaia had dealt with the second night's evil spirit attacks before. She'd felt quite relaxed then. As for the third night, the only time she'd experienced it was Norma's night. The evil spirit society had invaded, but everyone in the society had been there, including Chen Zhao. Gaia wasn't confident in facing the third night alone. Of course, if Gaia wasn't confident, she could bring people to the headquarters. However, it was only Daly's first night, so there was no need to make a big deal out of it. Just then, Daly screamed again, outside, there are so many people outside. Gaia looked outside. There were indeed some faintly discernible figures. They were all weak spirits. Some couldn't even be considered evil spirits. These weak spirits did not dare to enter. They were waiting for the slightly stronger evil spirits to attack first, and then they would take advantage of the situation. At the same time, she was glad that she didn't throw a tantrum and chase Gaia away. Or rather, Gaia didn't leave because of her tantrum. Suddenly, the spiritual bodies outside scattered in all directions like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. There seemed to be a hand in the darkness that was trying to capture those spiritual bodies. A chill ran down Dahlia's spine. What's wrong? What happened outside? Can't you see? A powerful evil spirit has come and is currently devouring those spirit bodies. When he is full, he will attack this place. Gaia said. I can only vaguely see a blurry shadow. Gaia understood. It was because Demon was too weak. Suddenly, Gaia pulled Dalymore behind her, and the glass door in front of them shattered. Countless fragments shot in, and a 4 to 5 meter tall evil spirit charged in. At this moment, Dalymore finally saw the huge evil spirit clearly. That twisted face sent chills down one's spine. In fact, from Gaia's point of view, this evil spirit was bluffing. Any evil spirit from the association would be able to torture this fellow. Evil spirits were not necessarily stronger the bigger they were. Usually, an evil spirit could grow to such a size only after devouring dozens of evil spirits of the same size. But this evil spirit had only devoured a few ordinary spirits. How strong could it be? Gaia stepped forward and punched. The evil spirit screamed and shattered. Suddenly, Dalymore screamed behind her. 2 evil spirits had appeared behind her without her noticing. While Gaia was dealing with the evil spirit in front of her, they wanted to drag Dalymore away. Scram! Gaia's body instantly exploded with terrifying dragon might. The souls of the 2 evil spirits were instantly destroyed. Gaia's attack power had always been her strength. She was stronger than Hallie's and Norma. But perception had always been her weakness. Hold my hand, Gaia said, reaching out. Dalymore hurriedly grabbed Gaia's hand. Then, Gaia released a trace of magic power and sent it into Dalymore's body. But this magic power felt like a raging flood in Dalymore's body. Another evil spirit attacked from behind, but as soon as it touched Dalymore, its body turned into dust. There were too many attacking evil spirits. Soon, the magic power Gaia had lent to Dalymore was used up. But to Gaia, this bit of magic power was enough to destroy so many evil spirits. It was worth it. If she had to attack herself, it would consume more magic power. Dalymore watched Gaia's continuous battle and was secretly anxious. But she did not know how to help Gaia. In fact, this level of fighting was no pressure for Gaia. She even dared to go through the motions in Edusa's house. Dalymore's living room was already a mess. The battle lasted for 4 hours. At 1 in the morning, it finally ended. Gaia let out a long sigh. Okay, it's over. You can rest in peace now. It's over. Yes, it's over. Gaia nodded. Are you going to leave? Dalymore asked, a little frightened. After all, she had just experienced the first supernatural event in her life. How could she sleep now? Yes, you're not in danger anymore. But I'm still scared. Didn't you always want to chase me away? Sorry. I didn't know, no need to apologize, Gaia said calmly. But after a moment of hesitation, Gaia said, if you encounter similar incidents in the future, you can ask Mr. Stephen to look for me. He has my contact number. Also, you have magic now, so you can learn some self-defense spells. Where should I learn? There are some spiritualists in LA. If you're willing to spend some money, they might be willing to teach you some magic. Of course, don't be tricked. Can you teach me? I can't. I don't know magic. We're not the same. Not the same. What do you mean? Okay, I really should go. Don't tell anyone about what happened tonight, not even your father. It won't do him any good. He's just a normal person. Chapter 1352. Mom, what happened here? Is it a war? When Sannel returned home, he saw that his house was in ruins. Daly Moore's expression was calm. Compared to what she had experienced last night, her daughter's screams did not affect her at all. Early in the morning, Gaia left. Daly Moore found an engineering company to repair her house. Then, he dialed Stephen's number. Dad, it seemed that she had not called him that for a long time. Daly Moore was not used to it. Daly Moore, are you okay? I'm fine, Daly Moore said. I want to know more about Gaia. Don't you hate her? That's because I didn't know. So you know now. I experienced something last night. Oh. What did you experience last night? It's better if you don't know, Daly Moore said. A friend of mine introduced Gaia to me. She used to be an actress in my crew and was also the choreographer. But the crew has been disbanded. Then give me your friend's contact. No. Why? Because my friend hates you. What? Daly Moore's expression froze. Why does he hate me? Do I know the friend you mentioned? Do you remember that you were scared by a bear a few days ago and ended up in the hospital? Then, that friend is the owner of that place. That's right, Stephen said. I asked him to treat your illness, but he still hates you. Daly Moore was depressed. She had offended someone for no reason. You should also control your temper. My friend's temper is even worse than yours. He doesn't care who you are. If I didn't ask, my friend and even Gaia wouldn't protect you. Daly Moore was silent. No wonder Gaia was always cold to her. Should I apologize to that person? Maybe later. I'll take you there then. Stephen's tone softened again. After all, she was his daughter. He could not ignore her. Mr. Mansari, are your people here? Kefwi Base looked at the military vehicles behind them. There are still 20 people. They have already spread out in the forest around the villa and have begun to make arrangements. Mansari said, the 20 people in front of you are hiding in your villa to protect you. Are you sure they can protect me? Although Kefwi Base agreed to use her as bait, that was under the premise that she was absolutely safe. Every rich person cherished their life, and Kefwi Base was no exception. The reason why she agreed to Mansari's plan was mainly because she didn't want to drag things out. Every day, the person by her bedside was thinking about how to kill her, which also made Kefwi Base unable to eat or sleep well. That was why she made up her mind to use herself as bait. Get rid of your bodyguards, and leave your life in the hands of Mansari and his counterterrorism security department. Boss, I've already set it up. I guarantee that not even a fly can fly in, Tommy said. After following Mansari into the anti-terrorism security department, Tommy became one of Mansari's confidants and took over the anti-terrorism operations command center. He was responsible for arranging and deploying anti-terrorist operations. Tommy himself was also a professional. Unlike India, Tommy had participated in the operation to hunt down the king of terrorists. It could be said that the fall of the king of terrorists was inextricably linked to Tommy and his team. Okay, I don't want our employer to suffer any harm. Don't worry, boss. Even if they send an army over, I won't let them return. Miss Kefwi, I'll leave this walkie-talkie to you. If you have any problems, you can communicate at any time. Okay. I should go too. Aren't you staying here? Kefwi Base asked. It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. Your defense here is close to a war fortress. For this operation, I provided the ammunition needed for a war. Don't worry, I won't let you lose money. Kefwi Base didn't have much else, but she had a lot of money. For people without money, their biggest problem was how to make money. For people with money, their biggest problem was how to spend it. Kefwi Base had a lot of money. A rich person like her wasn't limited to how to spend or how to make money. What she worried about was where to invest her money. Money would only depreciate and become less and less valuable. This was also why large companies and tycoons had so little cash flow. If they converted their money into real estate, it didn't matter how the money depreciated. Even if the US dollar fell to the level of the Zimbabwe dollar, they would still eat and drink. For someone like Kefwi Base, her assets could be said to be very complicated. Other than the main Base Group shares, she also had shares in various industries, including some military industries. A government armed department like the Anti-Terrorism Security Department was also a kind of investment. Of course, she couldn't get shares, and the Anti-Terrorism Security Department didn't have shares either. However, she could gain a certain amount of influence through this funding method. In the future, if she encountered some trouble outside of the business world, she could use pressure to ask the Anti-Terrorism Security Department for help. To put it bluntly, it was similar to political donations. Why was a country like America, which had almost eradicated bribery, still criticized for being corrupt? It was because large financial groups had the right to bribe. They didn't say that the money was bribery, but in the name of donation, which was legally allowed. Mr. Fernandez, you're finally here. Oni finally saw Fernandez and his team members. The truck stopped one by one, and Oni looked at them. What's in them? You'll know, Fernandez said. When do you start? Aren't you in a hurry? Let's do it tonight. Fernandez didn't want to stay in L for too long. The longer he stayed here, the less safe it would be. Once the supernatural organization found out that the Hermit Order trespassed in L.A. and did whatever they wanted. With how domineering they were, they definitely wouldn't just stand by and watch. No matter how proud Fernandez was, he wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could go against the supernatural organization. Chapter 1353. Mr. Fernandez, won't we attract too much attention if we drive so many trucks there? Oni asked worriedly. What? Are you scared? Fides glanced at Oni, who was sitting beside him. How could he not be scared? After all, Oni was just a normal person. But he also understood that even if he backed out now, Fides wouldn't let him go. So even if it was a dead end, he had to walk this path to the end. The sun had already set. A few trucks sped through the dark forest path. Boom! An explosion occurred without any warning. The truck at the front seemed to have run over a landmine. It fell to the side of the road with the back of the truck lying across the road. What's going on? What happened? What's going on? Fides frowned. Didn't you say that your wife lives alone in the front villa? Yeah. Oni suddenly paused. Damn it, that bitch, it's a trap. A trap. Looks like your wife recruited a bunch of people. They actually dared to use landmines. What do we do? What do we do? It's over, that bitch. Oni yelled angrily. Fides didn't seem to care. Good thing we came prepared. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. Oni turned to the calm Fernandez and asked, do you have a plan? Do you have an idea? It's just a small problem, Fides said calmly. Fides said casually and took out his walkie-talkie. Machalo, release all our pets. Just then, the doors of the truck on the ground opened. A large amount of cold air gushed out of the truck. Then, the doors of the trucks in front and behind opened as well. There seemed to be a large amount of ice inside each truck. However, apart from a large amount of cold air gushing out, Oni did not make any other movements. What now? Oni asked. No rush, Fides said nonchalantly. Of course Oni was anxious. He was betting everything he had on this gamble. If Fides couldn't solve the problem for him, then he would suffer a fate worse than death. Suddenly, Oni saw something crawl out of the truck in front of him. A human. It had gray skin and looked like a human at first glance. However, that thing looked like some kind of wild beast. The thing stood up and turned to the truck in which Oni and Furtus were. A second, a third, a fourth. More and more monsters came out of the carriage. Is that a human? Oni felt uncomfortable being stared at by that thing. It looked like a human being, but it was bulging and squirming. A tentacle stretched out from its mouth, stretched its chin, and rolled its eyes. Liquid flowed down the side of the creature's mouth. "Do you remember what we were doing the last time we met?" Felix asked. "What were you fishing for in the sea?" Oni was reluctant to recall the last time they met. At that time, Oni and a few models were having fun on the yacht when they encountered Furtus and his men at sea. The models were given to Fernandez, and Oni paid a ransom of $5 million for them. Fighters kept his promise and let him go. He even gave Kieran his contact number. It's to fish out these things. To be precise, it's to fish out the parasites in their bodies. Then, what exactly is Nana? Chromis egg, Felix said. They can live on most organisms, of course, most of them are animals, said Feeds. As he spoke, Felix took out a container from under the seat. There was a creature as thick as an arm inside. It was obvious that the creature was alive. Oni moved his butt subconsciously. He did not want to get too close to it. Felix pressed his palms on both ends of the container. The creature squirmed a little, and the Chromis parasites all turned around as if they had received some kind of message. This is the mother's body. Controlling it means controlling all of Chromis' offspring, Felix said. Where did it come from? Chromis. It has existed longer than humans. Don't think about where it came from. No one knows where it came from. It's a monster that hides deep in the sea. This thing can be used as a biological weapon, right? Hee hee. Once exposed to air for a long time, they will die within a few days. That's why we need to freeze them first and release them when we need them. If such a parasite really existed in this world, all the species in the world would have gone extinct. Everything in the world had its nemesis, and even supernatural creatures had their nemesis. Captain, someone triggered a landmine. Are you sure it was done by a human? The landmine we planted is an ML-55 landmine. It will only detonate when the pressure exceeds 1 ton. Does that mean that someone drove a car and detonated the landmine? Yes. It seems that our prey is here. Get ready. Tommy didn't know what he and his teammates were about to face. Just then, they heard noises in front of them. They're here. Let's show those bastards what we're capable of. Captain, there's no heat signature on them, a counterstrike said. They could vaguely see figures in front of them, but they couldn't see them with the night vision goggles. Maybe they brought some interference source with them. I don't think they're ordinary gangs. They might be mercenaries. Stay alert. We don't want to be humiliated by a group of mercenaries. Tommy looked through the binoculars and said, Get ready. Open fire when the enemies are 50 meters away. Open fire. Open fire. Knock them down. Da-da-da. Instantly, the front line formed by the members of the Counter-Strike Security Department began to spit out bullets. Those figures continued to run forward. Even though they were shot, they didn't slow down. Boom. Boom. In the hail of bullets, some Chromis parasites finally fell to the ground. Then, more and more Chromis parasites fell to the ground. Tommy was puzzled. He had been through many battlefields, but he had never experienced a battle like this. These enemies seemed to have no regard for their lives. Without using firearms, they just charged forward. He had thought that they were mercenaries, but it turned out that these people were much weaker than mercenaries. It was impossible for them to charge blindly like this. Chapter 1354. Captain, are they really our enemies? One of the team members asked. Yeah, they're just risking their lives for a joke. Tommy was also at a loss. Even if they were a suicide squad, they should have at least put on a bulletproof vest before charging over. What was the point of them throwing their lives away like this? Suddenly, a person who was supposed to have been shot several times stood up and charged over 10 meters forward. A series of intense gunshots rang out and the person fell to the ground once more. That scared me. I thought he was a zombie. I hope they can send more of them. Just a few of them isn't satisfying enough. One of the anti-terrorists stepped forward to inspect the corpse that had fallen to the ground. The corpse was on the verge of rotting and a strong smell lingered in the air. However, there was a hole in its stomach. The hole did not look like it was left behind by a gunshot. The corpse did not look like it had just died. Instead, it looked like it had been dead for a few days. Could this be a corpse that was transported over from somewhere? The anti-terrorist soldier covered his nose and used the barrel of his gun to move the corpse away. The moment the corpse was turned around, something abruptly sprang up from beneath the corpse. What? The thing instantly wrapped itself around the soldier's neck before trying its best to burrow into the soldier's mouth. Hey! Nolly, it's time to come back. What are you spacing out for? The soldier named Nolly staggered back. Nolly, what's in your mouth? When Nolly got closer, his comrade was able to clearly see a tentacle that was as thick as an arm sticking out of Nolly's mouth. Nolly, what's wrong? Spit that thing out, it's disgusting. At that moment, the tentacle in Nolly's mouth suddenly sprang up. The end of the tentacle spread out like a morning glory. Ah! The soldier was shocked and he fired the submachine gun in his hand. What happened? Tommy noticed what was going on. You shot your comrade. He has something in his mouth. The soldier said in horror. Tommy also saw something wriggling out of the soldier's mouth. Just as the tentacle was about to strike Tommy, Tommy pulled out his gun. The tentacle was shot in mid-air and fell to the ground. Tommy felt his scalp go numb. He had a vague feeling that something was wrong. At this moment, a soldier nearby let out a blood-curdling scream. Tommy saw a tentacle wrapped around the soldier's neck, and the tentacle was about to enter his mouth. Not good. Tommy shouted. Everyone, be careful. Rustling sounds could be heard in the darkness. Tommy vaguely saw something wriggling on the ground in front of them, heading towards them. Then a tentacle emerged from the darkness and strangled Tommy's neck. Tommy immediately grabbed one end of the tentacle and pulled it out with all his might. Schwa! In a moment of desperation, Tommy whipped out his saber and waved it in front of him. The two halves of the tentacle fell to the ground, motionless. Don't open your mouth. Don't let the tentacles crawl into the mouth. Inform the others. Captain, there are enemies in the forest again, damn it. Tommy finally realized that something was wrong. No matter what the situation was, these tentacles and those people were definitely in cahoots. The number of parasites in the second wave was far greater than the first. At the same time, there were also a large number of chromis in the darkness. The soldiers who were in charge of operating the machine guns were suddenly attacked by the chromis larvae that emerged from the darkness. The entire camp was instantly thrown into chaos. The parasites had already rushed forward and they attacked the soldiers in a frenzy. I am Tommy. The outer defense line has collapsed. The outer defense line has collapsed. There are monsters. Tommy used the walkie-talkie to inform the people in the villa as he fought. At that moment, a parasite pounced on Tommy and he tried to get up. However, the tentacle hanging from the parasite's mouth bit down on Tommy's neck. Then, another chromis larvae crawled into his mouth. What's going on? What happened? Did Oni bring people here? Kefwi Base cried out in fear. The resistance soldiers stationed in the villa began to prepare. Since the outer defense line had been broken, it could only mean that the enemy was very strong. Kefwi Base looked at the soldiers stationed outside the villa, not knowing what to do. She grabbed the phone and wanted to call for help, but there was no signal. No need to call for help. It's useless. They used a satellite signal jamming device. We can only use wireless power. Kefwi Base was even more at a loss. Since Oni had used such high-tech equipment, it could only mean that Oni had come prepared. At that moment, gunshots came from outside the villa. The battle had begun. Boom, boom, damn it, what is this thing? Where did this monster come from? The battlefield outside collapsed in an instant. Kefwi Base saw a tentacle-like thing rush into the villa. She turned and ran in fear. However, the inside and outside of the villa had become a battlefield. She didn't know where to run. A thing with a rotting body pounced on a soldier. Accompanied by the soldier's screams, it finally died in a violent explosion. The battle started very suddenly, and it also ended very suddenly. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left alive in the villa. Kefwi Base trembled in fear. She hid in the kitchen with a fruit knife in her hand. She didn't understand. She couldn't understand. Where did Oni find these monsters? At that moment, a parasite appeared in front of Kefwi Base. Whoa, Kefwi Base screamed. However, the parasite didn't attack her directly. Instead, it moved aside. Oni appeared in front of Kefwi Base. Darling, I'm here. Did you miss me? Oni stood beside the parasite, but it didn't attack him. You. Don't come over. You monster. Kefwi Base waved the fruit knife in her hand. Oni was extremely happy. He'd never felt so happy before. He finally didn't have to swallow his anger in front of Kefwi Base. He no longer had to grovel in front of Chloe Base. He didn't even dare to say anything when Kefwi Base openly cheated on him. Did you come over yourself? Or should I have them drag you out? Kefwi Base's face was pale, her hair a mess. She was frightened. No matter how strong she was in the past, she was just a helpless woman at that moment. Come out, let's talk, Oni said calmly. However, he still had the pride of a victor on his face. That's right, he was the victor. Kefwi Base still didn't dare to go over. Chapter 1355. Kefwi Base screamed as she was dragged out of the kitchen by two parasites. These two parasites used to be members of the anti-terrorism department. But now, they had lost their self-awareness. Tentacles were still hanging from their mouths, and disgusting mucus oozed out of their mouths. Kefwi Base was dragged into the living room. She saw a few people sitting in the living room. One of them was Oni. She didn't recognize the others at all. The surroundings were filled with parasites, and a large number of tentacles were wriggling on the ground. Kefwi Base sat on the ground helplessly, her face covered in tears and dirt. She was trembling, unable to control the fear in her body. Dear, are you surprised by this result? Oni looked at Kefwi Base proudly. At this moment, all his humiliation was released. The more miserable Kefwi Base was, the more afraid and desperate she was, the happier and prouder Oni was. What do you want? Kefwi Base mustered her courage and shouted. Ha! What do I want? Don't you know? Honey, I want everything, everything. At this moment, Oni finally didn't need to hide his intentions, his ambitions. Because soon, all his ambitions would be realized. Oni took out a phone. It was Kefwi Base's number. Oni threw it in front of Kefwi Base. Tell that man to come here. Man? Which man? Your lover, that Asian bastard, Oni said with a ferocious expression. You're crazy, I have nothing to do with him. He's my doctor. Cut the crap. Oni slapped Kefwi Base. Hurry, I want to see him. I want him dead. Kefwi Base hesitated for a long time. Oni signaled Felix with his eyes. A baby Krumis crawled to Kefwi Base's side. Kefwi Base shuddered when she felt the slippery sensation. She quickly shrank into a corner. Ah, hurry, tell that man to come here. Otherwise, you'll end up like them, becoming a host for Krumis. I'm looking forward to seeing if you can still maintain your composure and beauty after becoming a host, Oni joked. I'll call. Kefwi Base could barely control her phone. Fear had engulfed her. I can't get through, there's no signal. Okay, you can fight now. You better control your emotions, I don't want him to hear anything strange, Oni warned. Kefwi Base's face was pale. She tried her best to control her emotions so that she wouldn't cry. Hey. Chen. It's me. Kefwi Base said in a trembling voice. Oni's eyes shot out a warning. I'm out of painkillers. Can you bring me some? Kefwi Base bit her lower lip. She hoped that Chen Zhao could understand and help her call the police. After a few seconds of silence, Chen Zhao replied, no problem. Is it your villa in the suburbs? Yes. Can you hurry up? Okay, Chen Zhao said. I'll get there as soon as possible. Bear with the pain first. After hanging up, Kefwi Base looked at Oni with fear in her eyes. He said to come as soon as possible. Oni crossed his legs and ignored Kefwi Base. Then, he said to Felders and the others, after this is over, how about you stay in LA for a few more days? I'll arrange everything for you. No, Felders answered almost instinctively. Oni was confused. Do you hate LA that much? After we get the money, we'll leave LA immediately. Fine. Oni didn't care. Actually, he didn't like interacting with Felders and the others either. These people were too scary. If he didn't have to, he really didn't want to interact with them. If you're really sincere, you can go somewhere else. We won't mind. Of course. It'll be my honor, Oni agreed without thinking. He had money now anyway. He could even provide them with food and entertainment for the rest of their lives. Why don't you like LA? Oni asked curiously. LA is a big city. You can do anything you want here. Unfortunately, Felders and the others didn't want to talk about it. This has nothing to do with you. You better not ask too much. It's not good for you. Fine, I won't ask anymore. Oni shrugged. Oh, can you guys and these things hide first? I want to give that guy a surprise. As you wish. Fides had all the larvae and parasites of Chromis hide away, and the Hermit Order members also hid in a room. When Chen Zhao heard Kefwi Base's voice on the phone, he knew that something had happened to her. She also told herself that she'd finished her painkillers. According to her calculations, the painkillers could last her until she recovered. Chen Zhao drove to Kefwi Base's house. He could already smell the thick smell of gunpowder and blood. Of course, there was another smell apart from the gunpowder and blood. Chen Zhao wasn't unfamiliar with this smell. It was the smell of corpses. Not fresh corpses, but ones that had been dead for a few days. Chen Zhao didn't know what had happened here. However, he still hoped that Kefui Base was still alive. After parking the car at the door, Chen Zhao walked straight into the house. Along the way, there were large amounts of bullet casings and guns, as well as some minced meat. For a moment, Chen Zhao couldn't tell what the minced meat was. Chen Zhao touched his nose. The smell here was really bad. When Chen Zhao walked in, he saw Kefui Base sitting on the ground. Oni was sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed and his arms open, as if he was the owner of the place. "Miss Base, I'm here," Chen Zhao said. Seeing that Chen Zhao had come alone, Kefui Base's face was filled with disappointment. You came alone." "Yes, how many people do we need to treat her?" Kefui Base had completely given up. She'd hoped that Chen Zhao could understand her. Unexpectedly, Chen Zhao didn't think deeply at all. "Asian bastard, did you not expect that we would meet under such circumstances?" Oni was still sitting firmly on his seat. Chen Zhao glanced at Oni and was about to help Kefui Base up. Oni charged forward and swung his fist at Chen Zhao. With a backhand slap, Oni fell to the ground. Chen Zhao helped Kefui Base up. He could feel her body trembling. Chapter 1356. Fernandez. "Mr. Fernandez. Come out now," Oni yelled. Just then, Fernandez and the others walked out. Oni became even more arrogant when he saw Fides and the others. "Asian bastard, I want you to die a horrible death," Oni roared. "Chen! Run, run!" Kefui Bus yelled. Narrowing his eyes, Chen Zhao looked at Fernandez and the others. "I think I've seen you guys before. Let me think. Where have I seen you before?" However, when Fernandez and the others saw Chen Zhao, their expressions all changed. They didn't expect that the person they'd been trying so hard to avoid would actually be here. It was Oni who took the initiative to call him over. "Mr. Fernandez, tell those monsters to bite off his limbs." "Hurry," Oni didn't notice the expression on Fernandez and the others' faces. Seeing that they weren't moving, Oni urged again, "Mr. Fernandez, hurry up." "Shut the fuck up," Fernandez roared. "Mr. Fernandez." Oni didn't understand. They'd been having a good time just a moment ago. How come Fernandez was talking to him so viciously now? Fernandez only felt bitterness in his mouth. "Sir. Looks like we've really met before." Chen Zhao couldn't remember where he'd seen Fernandez. He just felt that he looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where. "I don't care where you're from. Don't you know that LA is my territory?" Kefui Bus looked at Chen Zhao in surprise, then at the bitter expressions of Fernandez and the others. Suddenly, some hope rose in Kefui Bus' heart. "We'll leave now. We promise you that we'll never step into LA again." Kefui Bus remembered what they'd talked about earlier. They didn't seem very willing to come to LA. Was it because of Chen Zhao that they weren't willing to come? Chen Zhao helped Kefui Bus sit on the sofa. "Did I allow you to leave?" Chen Zhao asked calmly. Fernandez and the others, who'd wanted to leave, immediately stopped. "Sir. We don't want to be your enemy. Please let us leave. We promise we'll never come back to LA again. You came to my territory and behaved atrociously, and now you want to leave without saying a word." Fides and the others were a little angry, but they restrained themselves. "Your Excellency, I am the chairman of the Hermit Order. I am not afraid of you." Fides decided to show off his name. He hoped that the Hermit Cultivators Guild would be able to intimidate the other party. "Hermit Order? Never heard of it," Chen Zhao said indifferently. "Leave your head here and do whatever you want. Leave his head behind and do as he pleases." If you don't give me a chance to live, then let's fight. Fides suddenly growled and channeled his mana into the container in his arms. In an instant, Chromis parasite that was hiding outside the villa rushed into the villa. Careful! Kefwi Base exclaimed. She had always been tense, and what she cared about the most were the Chromis parasites and the larvae. However, in the next instant, a blade appeared out of nowhere and exploded around the room. Countless blades appeared out of nowhere, instantly dismantling the entire villa. Be it the Chromis parasites or the larvae, they were all pierced through in an instant. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Fides and the others were shocked by this scene. What kind of magic was that blade that suddenly appeared? The 1,000 stone swords returned and gathered above everyone's heads. They were like the sword of Damocles, aimed at everyone's head. You said you want to fight me, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Come, who will start first? One of the hermit cultivators raised his head to look at the sky, then shouted, Allow me. The next instant, a stone sword fell from the sky and pierced through the person. Instant kill. Chen Zhao couldn't make 1,000 stone swords do different movements at the same time. However, controlling a single stone sword was like drinking water to him. The second one, come. Your Excellency. Are you going to kill us all? You should be prepared to behave atrociously in my territory. The North American Light Society was like this, and so are you. Fides suddenly took out a container and smashed it on the ground. In an instant, the main body of Chromis in the container suddenly swelled up, swelled up, swelled up. In the blink of an eye, the main body of Chromis turned into a huge octopus monster. Kefwi Base screamed in fear. Let's go! Fides shouted. He wanted to use this chance to escape. A god of otherworldlings. However, this god of otherworldlings wasn't very strong. Go away. Chen Zhao punched the main body of Chromis. Whoosh! The main body of Chromis was instantly shattered by the terrifying power. Chen Zhao looked at the escaping Fides and the others. Darkness suddenly swept over. Kefwi Base saw something wriggling in the darkness. It looked like liquid, but because it was night time, she could only see red lines rolling in the darkness. The scream stopped and everything returned to silence. Okay, it's over, Chen Zhao said indifferently. At the same time, he lifted his hand and the stone sword hanging in the sky disappeared. Kefwi Base had experienced the ups and downs of her life tonight. Oni was the same. Just a little bit. Just a little bit more and he could reach the peak of his life. But in the end, he destroyed everything with his own hands. He'd never thought that he'd ruin everything with his own hands. Suddenly, Kefwi Base hooked her arms around Chen Zhao's neck. She tiptoed and kissed him forcefully. However, Kefwi Base seemed to know that Chen Zhao would refuse. She didn't get too greedy and stopped there. As for Oni beside her, she didn't care about his feelings at all. Chen Zhao wiped the corner of his mouth and glanced at Oni. Oni lowered his head. Even though he was burning with anger, he didn't dare to show it. What do you plan to do with him? Chen Zhao asked. Oni jerked his head up and looked at Kefwi Base. His eyes were filled with pleading. I want him dead. I want him dead. Kefwi Base repeated twice. One could imagine how much she hated Oni. Mr. Chin, don't kill me. I can give you half of the money. If you kill this woman, her property will be mine. We can split it equally. Oni made his last struggle. I hate you, Chen Zhao said indifferently. I won't work with someone I hate. Chen Zhao pointed at Oni with his right hand. Instantly, an electric arc shot out from his fingertip. Bang! Chapter 1357. Chen, thank you. Kefui Bus stared at Chen Zhao. It's late. I should go. Chen Zhao seemed to have forgotten about the forced kiss. Are you going to leave me alone in this place full of corpses? I can send you back to the city. Can you stay with me for one night? Sorry, no. Chen Zhao sent Kefui Bus back to the city. Kefui Bus and Chen Zhao didn't speak on the way. When they neared Kefui Bus's manor, Kefui Bus finally said, Do you dislike me? You Asians are very particular about chastity, right? I've been married before and I'm sick. You're thinking too much. First of all, we're not that close. Second, I don't think a man should have other relationships behind his pregnant girlfriend's back. Kefui Bus fell silent. She suddenly regretted it. Why didn't she get to know Chen Zhao earlier? This was a man who moved her. A man who made her feel safe. She even started to be jealous of the woman she'd never met. Perhaps Chen Zhao had everything that could make that woman jealous. But that woman had a man who was willing to be loyal to her. This was the only thing she lacked. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't think that Kefui Bus loved him. After all, he'd only met Kefui Bus 3 times in total. They hadn't even spent 10 hours together. The so-called love at first sight was a very illusory thing. At least, Chen Zhao didn't believe in love at first sight. Maybe it was because he'd given her hope when she was at her lowest. Or maybe it was just a sense of security. Plus, Chen Zhao didn't think that he had to have an affair. Fei Lai could satisfy all his physical and psychological needs. Chen Zhao didn't want to ruin their relationship and family because of a little impulse. Who are you? Kefui Bus couldn't help but want to know more about Chen Zhao. The man who'd given her a second life. A medical professor and the legal doctor from the UCLA branch, Chen Zhao said. What else? Spiritualist. Like just now. More or less. You rule Los Angeles. No, my job is more like that of a police officer. Of course, you can also treat me as a vigilante, just like what happened just now. I kill those people, including your husband, without going through a court trial. But most of the time, the enemies I face are not humans, and I have nothing to do with the ruler. The car suddenly stopped. We've reached your house. Kefui Base was still in the car. She didn't want to leave. Chen, if I need you again, will you appear? Yes. Kefui Base suddenly smiled brightly. Goodbye. Kefui Base's expression darkened after getting out of the car. She picked up the phone and dialed Mansari's number. Mr. Mansari, do you know what I went through tonight? Ms. Base, I don't know what you're talking about. What's wrong? Your people are all dead. And if I wasn't saved by a friend, I might have died too. What? My men are all dead. Where's Tommy? He's probably dead too. I was attacked by a group of monsters. I don't know where Oni found them. They seem to be controlled by an organization called the Hidden Cultivators. Mansari's expression changed. What kind of monsters are you talking about? Can you describe them to me? The Hidden Cultivators call them Climus. Larvae of Climus are like fat octopus tentacles. They will crawl into people's mouths and control them or corpses. Mansari felt like his scalp was going to explode. What kind of organization was that? What kind of monsters were they? Now, he only felt that being the head of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department was really difficult. It had only been a short while, but 2 of his trusted subordinates had already died. There were still dozens of other members. Just thinking about the compensation made Mansari's head hurt. Ms. Base, who's your friend? How did he save you? No comment, Kefui Base said coldly. Mansari was even more depressed. He thought that he could easily get the sponsorship, but it seemed like he could only watch it disappear. I won't miss a single cent, Kefwi Base suddenly said. Thank you, Ms. Base. You should call me Ms. Base now. If you have any requests in the future, you can come find me, Mansari said. Kefwi Base didn't have a good experience. But the result was satisfying. Was there anything more delightful than Oni's death? Why had she been so blind to have fallen for this man? Daily Moore also resumed her work today. However, she still couldn't get what happened that night out of her mind. It wasn't a supernatural incident. It had really happened. It had happened to him. Boss, are you better? Kermia saw Daily Moore enter the office and immediately came to greet her. Yes. How's the company doing these 2 days? We've recruited 2 new employees. They were recruited by the technical department's manager. Yes. Call the 2 newcomers in. Kermia led the 2 newcomers into Daily Moore's office. Daily Moore looked at the 2 newcomers. Kermia said, "Introduce yourselves." Boss, I'm Nawat Singh. I graduated from Caltech. Boss, I'm Antifagos. Singh, are you a Roma? Daily Moore looked at Nawat Singh's dark red hair. The Roma were actually gypsies in the eyes of ordinary people. However, they considered the gypsies to be a form of discrimination and humiliation, so they called themselves the Roma. They were mainly distributed in Europe and North America. Most of them had abandoned their original identity and customs. Singh was a more common surname among the Roma. Yes, boss. I heard that all the Roma know divination. Is that true? Boss, that's just a rumor. In the eyes of the world, the Roma were the symbol of uncleanliness. They did all the dirty jobs. Every man was a thief, a pickpocket, a beggar, or a human trafficker. Every woman was a witch or a prostitute. This was mainly because the Roma were mainly nomadic families in the early days. It's fine, Daily Moore said. I just want to get to know you. Then, go back to work. Nawat Singh glanced at Dahlia before turning to leave the office. Kermia, find me Nawat Singh's file. Chapter 1358. Nawat Singh was born in a very ordinary family. She was currently single, 28 years old, graduated from California Polytechnic State University. She had 5 years of work experience. However, Daily Moore noticed that Nawat Singh quit her previous job because she was sexually harassed by her superior. Coincidentally, Daily Moore knew Nawat Singh's previous company. Hey, Powell. How are you doing? Daily Moore, why are you calling me? A workaholic like you actually called me. What's up? I just saw the newspaper saying that one of the executives in your company harassed his employees. Let's not talk about this anymore. I'm so angry. That idiot is an unreasonable bastard. He's totally tarnishing my company's reputation and seriously affecting it. Anyway, your company isn't a public company and your company's business is stable. After the incident, that person jumped off the building where my company is located. I even paid a hefty sum of compensation. Ha! Jumped off the building. Is that necessary? That's why I said he's an idiot. Come out for a meal when you're free. After some pleasantries, Daily Moore hung up the phone. In the afternoon, Daily Moore saw Nawat Singh eating lunch alone in the dining room. Daily Moore took her lunch and sat beside Nawat Singh. Hi, Singh. I guess I can call you that. Nawat Singh raised her head and looked at Daily Moore in surprise. Boss. Alone? I don't know anyone in the company, Nawat Singh said. Are you used to the company? It's all right. If you encounter any harassment in the company, you can tell me immediately. Nawat Singh looked at Daily Moore in surprise. She heard that her boss had always been rude and overbearing. If there was a conflict between the employees and the company, she would never care who was right or wrong. She would punish everyone. Boss, you know what happened to me in the other companies? Yeah, I know. It's not a secret. Daily Moore nodded. Not Singh kept quiet and lowered her head to eat her lunch. When did you experience life and death? 10. As soon as the words left his mouth, he suddenly reacted. Before he could even swallow the food in his mouth, he gaped at Delamore. Boss, you. Dahlia laughed. As expected, she had managed to find out her true colors just by probing her. In the spiritual world, Navat Singh was much more experienced than a newbie like Delamore. But in terms of tactics, even 10 Nawat Singsangs couldn't beat Dahlia Moore. Boss, are you a spiritualist too? To be more precise, I'm a newcomer, Dahlia said. Just the day before yesterday, I went through a near-death ordeal. First night. The second night. Or the third night. First night, Dahlia said. I hope someone can teach me a few things. Boss, since you can safely pass the life tribulation, there must be someone protecting you, right? You can ask the person who is protecting you directly. I don't know her very well. She was entrusted by someone to protect me, Dahlia said. After the first night, she left. Is there only one person protecting you? Yes. Is there a problem? That person should be very powerful, right? Navat Singh said. Yes, she should be very powerful. Usually, there's a certain degree of danger in protecting someone who has awakened their magic during the life tribulation. It's a high-intensity and long battle. For example, when I was going through the life tribulation, my teacher and 2 friends protected me together. Is it very dangerous? I feel like the person protecting me didn't seem to be too tired. She said that if it's the second night, she might feel tired. The second night? Impossible. The second night is 100 times more dangerous than the first night, Navat Singh said. Many years ago, among us Roma, there was a witch who awakened her magic power on the second night. At that time, there were more than 20 powerful witches protecting her, but in the end, they all failed. Apart from that witch who was not spared, the 20 witches protecting her were also implicated. In the end, only 3 witches survived. Fortunately, I didn't awaken on the second night, Dahlia said with relief. 2 years ago, there were signs of a third night awakening in Los Angeles. That night, I saw a terrifying wave of evil spirits. It was a disaster. Is the witch who awakened on the third night dead? Probably dead. It's impossible to survive that kind of disaster. Right, the person protecting me said that we're not the same kind. What does that mean? It should be because you're a magic awakened, and she's a blood awakened, Navat Singh said. A blood awakened has a special bloodline. Then who's powerful? There's no conclusion. It depends on whose magic is stronger, Navat Singh said. In the legends of the Roma, there are 3 magic awakened and 2 bloodline awakened among the 5 pillar kings, said Navak Shingus. What's a pillar king? Dahlia asked curiously. This is related to the mythological system of the Roma. In the mythological system of the Roma, the god of creation was transformed into 5 orbs and scattered across the world. Then, 5 people found them one after another, and they finally transformed into the powerful pillar kings. These 5 pillar kings supported the sky, but in actual history, they were just 5 powerful spiritualists. Tell me about dangerous magic, Navat Singh said calmly. Navat said indifferently, in our community, some old Roma sell some handicrafts. Just ordinary handicrafts? Not all of them are handicrafts. Some of them are magic items. But I advise you not to accept anything from a Roma person. If a Roma person wants to give you something, even if it's just a piece of sheepskin or a coin, you'd better not accept it. Why? Some despicable Roma know how to use debt and return magic. It's very complicated, but once it's completed, you'll be out of luck. Plus, there aren't many Roma who know this magic. What happens if the magic is completed? Will it kill me? No. It's like a Roma taking out a coin. This coin is all he has. If you accept this coin, it's equivalent to taking away all his wealth. Then, you have to return all his wealth, which is all your wealth. Then if a Roma wants to use this magic on me and put the coin in my pocket, won't I lose everything? That's impossible, because this is a trade magic, Navat Singh said. You can't force a trade spell. He may deceive you with tricks, but he can't force it on you. You have to accept it directly, said Navat Singh. Then what do I do? It's simple. Throw him a bill. No matter how much it is, even if you use Zimbabwe dollars. Why? Chapter 1359. Can you teach me magic? Dahlia finally revealed her true motive. Do you want to learn magic? Yes. There are 3 ways to learn magic, Navatsinger said. You join an organization, Navatsinger said. Another way is family inheritance. Another way is teacher-student inheritance. If you're willing to acknowledge me as your teacher, I can teach you magic. Yes, teacher, Daly said. In the company, I'm your employee, Navatsinger said. Outside the company, you're my student. No problem. Daly nodded. In that case, why don't we be friends? Whether in the company or outside, we don't need to address each other respectfully. That's good. At least it won't be awkward. Can you teach me a spell first? Daly asked. Let's go somewhere remote. You don't want to learn here, do you? They found a park. Navatsinger said, witches of my system aren't good at fighting. Our strongest magic is exploration. Exploration. What's the use of this spell? For example, I can sense everyone's movements within 100 feet even with my eyes closed. Even a fly or a bug. Of course, if an enemy approaches, I can know in advance. Daly's eyes lit up. I want to learn this spell. You can't learn it yet. It's an advanced spell. I'll teach you the most basic spell, Danger Sense. Navat Sindhis paused and said, this magic can help you tell if someone is dangerous or not. Of course, what you perceive is not the real danger. For example, if you see a gun as dangerous, but if the muzzle is not aimed at you, you will not be in danger. What you perceive is whether someone can hurt you, not whether they will hurt you or not. I understand. Navatsinger began to explain the spell. After all, Daly had no foundation, so it was difficult for Navatsinger to teach her. After more than an hour, Daly only learned some basic knowledge. I have to go to work. No need. Teach me this spell first. Okay. You're the boss. Did you forget our agreement? Call me Daly Moore or Daly Moore. Okay, Limo, Navat Sindhis continued, you first need to be able to control your magic. After another 3 hours, Navats and Sindhis pointed at a man in front of them. Do you see that man? Try to sense him. Dalamore tried to use her senses, which were not very practiced. I can feel that his face is a little green. Green means there's no threat. If the color turns red, then you have to be careful. The other party might be a threat to you. You must be mistaken. He's a man, so his stamina must be better than mine. How can I not feel threatened? There's no mistaking it. He has a serious illness, and he wants to jump into the sea from here. He wants to commit suicide. At that moment, the man tried to climb up the railing, but after trying a few times, he failed. Dahlia was stunned for a moment. He was indeed weak. The railing next to them was less than 1.4 meters tall, but the man couldn't even climb over it. One had to know that even he could do it. Can perception spells be wrong? Perception magic is the only magic that won't make a mistake. No, there's another possibility. Only people who are much, much stronger than you can make a mistake. There are also some spiritualists who know how to hide their magic power, so your perception is useless against them. Dahlia tried to use magic on Navot Cindy's. She saw that there was a red mist on Navot Cindy's body. When can I learn new spells? Use perception spells on 1,000 people first. Practice. Yes. Navot Cindy's nodded. Your magic is still too weak. You can only learn new spells by continuously using it and letting it grow. Boom, boom, Chen Zhao was being attacked by a missile. After so much practice, he'd used up most of the missiles. Chen Zhao felt that it was a pity. After all, he felt that his body had indeed improved a lot. But because he had limited firearms, he couldn't train like this endlessly. After finishing the explosive training, Chen Zhao left the river map. Denver called Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, are you at home? I'm here. What's up? The first batch of beer is ready. I'll send some over. Come and try it and see if you need to change the ratio. Okay, I'll wait for you at home. A while later, a small truck drove over. Denver had personally delivered the beer. Chen Zhao took out a bottle of beer and blew on it. The beer was gone. A refreshing taste rose from his stomach and was fed to his brain. The beer's unique bitterness disappeared after the alcohol rose. It was replaced by a faint sweetness. Is this brewed from Mirror Lake? Yes. Denver nodded. When brewing wheat beer, a small amount of water and fermented wheat had to be added. Chen Zhao was very satisfied with the taste. It's better than I imagined. What do you think? I don't want to drink any other beer now. Denver was also in a good mood. After all, the taste of the beer determined their development plans. More? I'll bring some to my friends, Chen Zhao said. Then I'll bring 20 more cases. Is that enough? Denver asked. Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. After Denver left, Chen Zhao put away the first batch of beer. Fei Lai really liked beer. Because of her pregnancy, she hadn't had it in a long time. If they released their own beer now, she probably wouldn't be able to hold it in. Plus, Jerlin dared to put anything in her mouth. If the beer was placed in the open, Jerlin definitely wouldn't let it go. Chen Zhao didn't want his daughter to become a little drunkard. Fei Lai, I'm going out for a while. Seeing Chen Zhao put away the beer, Fei Lai knew what he was thinking. Leave 2 cans for me. Fei Lai. Chen Zhao looked at her. I haven't had beer in 7 months. Now that our own beer is out, can't I have a taste? Chapter 1360. Fei Lai was just craving for food. She also knew that she wouldn't drink too much now. It was enough for her to keep one for herself. Chen Zhao drove the truck out. On the way, someone asked, Steven, are you home? Are you coming over? My brewery has already produced a test product. I'm looking for you to test it. Call Rasfa too. Perfect. I'll call Rasfa now. Rasfa arrived at Steven's house before Chen Zhao. When Chen Zhao arrived, Steven and Rasfa had already started drinking by themselves. Hearing the car, Rasfa ran out immediately. Chen, where's your beer? In the car. Carry it yourself. Fuck you, how old am I? You want me to carry beer? Chen Zhao carried 2 boxes of beer from the car. It's not hard for you to carry 1 box. If you can't even carry one box, go home. We're not going home until we're drunk. Rasfa had no choice but to carry a box of beer. Ever since he'd become 20 years younger and Chen Zhao had taken care of him, he'd become much healthier. Even his personal health consultant couldn't believe that he was so healthy now. Steven was barbecuing in the backyard. Before he even reached, he could already smell the thick aroma of meat. Fuck, I stole the meat that Steven is barbecuing from my house. I'll go steal some from your house sometime, Rasfa said shamelessly. If you're not afraid of Princess biting you, just go. Chen Zhao tossed the beer on the ground. He picked up a piece of barbecued meat and stuffed it into his mouth. Don't eat too much, Steven complained. I only have a few pieces of meat and you ate so much in one bite. You took it from me, Chen Zhao said, widening his eyes. It's with me now, so it's mine. Steven wasn't embarrassed at all. He spoke confidently and picked up a can of beer to drink. Yeah. Delicious. Just a few boxes. That's enough. The three started drinking. As they ate, they didn't forget to insult each other. Steven, how's the editing going? It's 70% done. I think it'll be done in another week, and it should be out in June, Steven said. When's the earliest it can be released? Chen Zhao asked. A few more months of publicity, Steven said. Steven said, but I think it's better to wait for Thanksgiving or Christmas. No, the competition between these two festivals is too fierce, Rasfa said. Do you think I'm afraid of competition? Steven said loudly. It was as if he was declaring his strength. It's better to be careful. There's no need to take risks, Rasfa said. After all, he did not know about the lucky gold coin. Also, if we choose to release it at these two times, our showtimes will definitely be reduced, Rasfa said. Ideally, it'll be released on the weekend before Labor Day. Labor Day was on the first Monday of September in the United States, and it was a legal holiday. It just so happened that the movie that was released on the first weekend could be extended by one day. After all, when a movie was released, there was a huge difference between the box office during the holidays and during the working days. But 3 months of publicity is too short, Steven said. Since PLM is a distribution company, they should at least give enough publicity. Chen, what do you think? Steven looked at Chen Zhao. He thought that Chen Zhao would support him. After all, Chen Zhao knew the inside story. I'm a layman, Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. You guys can decide. Oh, I didn't see Fei Lai at your house last time, Steven said. Did you lend it to someone else? It's sunk. Chen Zhao grinned. I knew it. Second-hand yachts are unlucky, Steven said. You shouldn't have bought a second-hand yacht. Chen Zhao touched his chin. He was a spiritualist, so he believed in such things. Luck was something that could not be seen or touched, but Black Ma and White Ma were experts in this field. It seemed that if he bought a yacht or plane in the future, he should not buy second-hand stuff. Fei Lai was a good buy, but it wasn't worth it if he used it for a long time. He used it for a year and then it sunk into the sea. I plan to book a yacht too, Chen Zhao said. Seagate is a good company. It's cost-effective. I recommend that you consider them. Do you have Seagate's contact information? Yes. I'll give you their product manager's contact information, or I can ask them to contact you directly. Okay. It's good to buy a yacht. At least it's more stable, Rasfa said. The financial market is terrible this year. Wall Street's money is flowing into Hollywood like crazy. They're willing to shoot any movie. Won't they lose money if they shoot a movie? Chen Zhao asked. How can Wall Street's elites not know? Chen Zhao was not in the film industry, but he knew that Hollywood was the world's largest film production base. Only 5% of Hollywood movies could make a profit. The other 5% didn't lose money. The other 90% lost money. As long as it's done well, the movie won't lose money, Rasfa said. For those people, not losing money is a profit. But the channels are all controlled by the big six, so most of the money is flowing into them. As long as they see a good project, those Wall Street tycoons will rush over like crazy. I heard that too. Even James got a big project with a budget of $180 million, Steven said. However, he didn't look too happy. Instead, he looked worried. James is too impatient. If he can calm down, he can take a mid-range project with a budget of tens of millions first. It'll be good whether it makes money or not. But it's too dangerous for him to take such a big production for his second movie. Didn't you remind him? Chen Zhao asked. How do I remind him? Tell him that you shouldn't take the project. With Steven's status, it was indeed inconvenient for him to say it. Even if Steven did, James might not appreciate it. Instead, he might think that Steven was suppressing him or jealous of him. If James didn't suffer a huge setback, he probably wouldn't realize it himself. If it was a small or medium-sized project, it was easier to recoup. At least, it could break even if it was done properly. But an investment of $180 million would require at least $500 million in the world to recoup the cost. If such a large investment failed, it would be a huge loss. Any company would suffer a huge loss, and the reputation of the director would also be greatly damaged. Rasfa's foundation was still too shallow. He only had one successful movie now. Chapter 1361. Don't they say that when the economy is bad, rich people will invest in industries? It's not that easy to invest in industries. Taking out tens of millions of dollars to invest in a beer factory is child's play for the rich on Wall Street. It won't solve their problem of having too much cash. Even if they invest in industries, they won't invest in something that hasn't been discovered yet. Hollywood is currently the most promising and proven profitable project. Of course, they'll focus on Hollywood. Of course, this is only the investment projects that we can see. There are some projects that we don't know about or are illegal investments. Is blindly investing better than keeping the money in your hands? Chen Zhao still didn't understand. At least, Chen Zhao couldn't understand the logic behind it. The big shots on Wall Street definitely knew more than him. They might be crazy, but they weren't stupid. It was just like how Chen Zhao had invested in the beer factory because he knew that he could make money. To Chen Zhao, their investment was ridiculous, but who knew their true intentions? Nevertheless, this was just a casual conversation at the table for the three. The three talked about their own things, eating and drinking. They'd finished half of the 3 cases of beer. Steven and Rasfa were both drunk. They lay on the ground, covered in mud. Chen Zhao sat on the ground and continued drinking. Just then, the sound of high heels came from outside. Daly Moore walked in with large strides. When she saw Chen Zhao, Steven, and Rasfa on the ground, Daly Moore froze. Looking at the beer bottles on the ground, Daly Moore roughly knew why they were lying on the ground. However, it was understandable that Steven and Rasfa were drunk, but they wouldn't drink to this extent with someone they weren't familiar with. Instinctively, Daly Moore cast a perception spell on Chen Zhao. Green gas, but Daly Moore thought of Not Sinditha's words. Are you, the Chen that Steven mentioned? Daly Moore asked, trying to sound him out. Chen Zhao was quite sober. He'd drunk a dozen cans of beer, but it was like drinking a glass of water to him. What spell did you use on me? Chen Zhao felt the magical waves from Daly Moore. Daly Moore was surprised. How did you know? There's too much of a difference between our levels. How do you think I know? Perception magic, Dahlia said. Do you want a drink? Dahlia hesitated for a moment, then sat down on the chair beside her. Perception magic. That's a rare spell. Mr. Chen, I'm very sorry about what happened that day. I didn't know you knew Stephen. What did you sense from me? I didn't sense anything. Chen Zhao stood up and said, Tell your father and Rasfa that I'm leaving. Daily Moore looked at Chen Zhao's back. Thank Gaia for me too. Chen Zhao didn't drive. Instead, he put the car away. It was a matter of principle to drink and not drive. He still had to send some beer to the headquarters. After the sky darkened, the temperature in Los Angeles dropped by a few degrees, and the night wind was a little cold. Because the United States was a country with a high crime rate, if a person walked alone at night, they would either be watched by criminals or the police. It was like the curfew in ancient times in China. If a person walked alone for no reason, they would most likely be arrested. Although the United States wouldn't arrest people for no reason, the police would definitely stop and question them if they saw them. When Chen Zhao returned home, it was already late at night. After washing up, he went to bed. He liked to place his palm on Fei Lai's belly. It was a wonderful process to feel the pulsation in it. Chen Zhao would always think about the process of giving birth to this little life. In almost 8 months, the little life had completed its basic development. However, there were still some that hadn't developed yet. Many premature babies were born with congenital diseases, and most of them were heart dysplasia. Feeling Chen Zhao's palm, Fei Lai turned her head to look at him. She kissed Chen Zhao deeply and then went back to sleep. Chen Zhao also fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Chen Zhao heard footsteps. Jerlin had woken up again. When Jerlin first came to this house, she would wake up 3 or 4 times a night. Now, she would wake up in the middle of the night not because she was hungry or because she was startled. She was playing with little Nine. Recently, she liked playing with little Nine. Little Jerlin was like a thief. She got up sneakily and clumsily put on her swimsuit. Jerlin thought that she was very secretive. In reality, Chen Zhao had always been watching. Sometimes, he would sit on the balcony and watch Jerlin play at night. Children's sleep schedule was very messy. They would sleep for a few hours during the day and at night too. Humans work during the day and sleep at night was cultivated through years of habit. They weren't born to work during the day and rest at night. If someone was used to working at night and resting during the day, they might not be as healthy as others. Chen Zhao didn't bother to restrict Jerlin and Little Nine's relationship. Also, because of Little Nine's size, he rarely came out during the day. Right now, Jerlin was sitting on one of Little Nine's heads. She used Little Nine's body as a slide and slid down the head. Then she rushed into the water. Then there was a burst of laughter. Not long after, the Cerberus and the others also arrived. The Cerberus and the dog had the same temperament. And dogs really liked children. The 3 dogs were the same. Usually, when Chen Zhao scolded Jerlin, the 3 dogs would also roar at him. This came from their genes. It was their nature to protect. Of course, Chen Zhao never worried that they would hurt Jerlin. Only by truly interacting with them could one understand their gentleness. Just then, a flash of light came from the forest. It seemed to be a signal to the house. The only person who could get close to the villa without being attacked was the stupid vampire, Murphy. As Chen Zhao's personal employee, Murphy had been patrolling the house dutifully every night. He was quite familiar with Chen Zhao's pets. Chen Zhao silently flew into the air and landed beside Murphy. What? Chen Zhao asked, looking at Murphy. Boss, I have something to tell you. Chapter 1362. Boss, I want a pay raise. Murphy had prepared this sentence for a long time. Today, he finally mustered the courage to say it. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes at Murphy. Do you know what you're saying? Murphy was scared of Chen Zhao, very scared. Moreover, he knew that it wasn't easy to find a job with a salary of $10,000 a month. An annual salary of $120,000 was a high-paying job anywhere. Am I not paying you enough? Chen Zhao's tone was sinister. Or did you forget that I went deep into the crypt demon lair to save you? Murphy was so scared by Chen Zhao's aura that he was about to cry. Boss, I don't want it anymore. I don't dare. Tell me, Chen Zhao said. Why do you suddenly want a pay raise? I have a girlfriend, Murphy said, lowering his head. Was that a reason? To Chen Zhao, it wasn't a reason at all. With $10,000 a month, it was enough for him to go out and play every day. And then? Chen Zhao still asked calmly. My expenses are a bit high, Murphy said. Chen Zhao frowned. He'd let Murphy go back then because the kid was too innocent. He looked like an adult, but because he'd been living in an isolated environment, he didn't have much contact with the outside world. This also caused him to be a bit unsociable and innocent. So, Chen Zhao was very curious about what kind of romance Murphy was playing. His $10,000 a month wasn't even enough for a relationship. Where do you usually go on dates? She's a Hollywood star, so we can't expose her. When we're free, we go out to play or book a restaurant so that reporters don't sneak in. Oh, you know that I know a famous director, Chen Zhao said. Tell me her name. Maybe I can introduce her to a role. But, she said that I can't reveal her name, Murphy said, troubled. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. He was 80% sure that he believed his own judgment. The kid had been tricked. But could he say it directly? It was said that women in love would become stupid. In fact, this sentence was also applicable to men. Especially for an innocent little man like Murphy. He wouldn't believe his own words. I'll consider your request, Chen Zhao said. Then do you agree or not? I said I'll consider it. Do you want me to make a decision now? Are you sure you want the answer now? Chen Zhao's tone turned cold. Murphy was really scared of Chen Zhao. He lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Chen Zhao's eyes. Only then did Chen Zhao return to the mansion, but he didn't plan on sleeping. Instead, he picked up the phone and dialed the number of Agnes, Murphy's beautiful young mother. Hey, I'm Chen Zhao. It's you. Why are you calling me at this time? Do you know that for a woman, adequate sleep can maintain long-term youth and beauty? You're a vampire, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. You can just find a few people to drink blood from. Also, isn't nighttime your activity time? Tell me, what's the matter? Agnes said with dissatisfaction. Your son just asked me for a raise. Oh, I didn't expect him to have such courage. Even Agnes, as his mother, could not stand Murphy's cowardice. Her tone was quite disdainful. Agnes did not really care about Murphy's salary. What she cared about was Murphy's growth. But I didn't agree, Chen Zhao said. Oh, Agnes said, displeased. You called me just for this. No, Chen Zhao said. I suspect that he's been tricked. Agnes, who'd been nonchalant before, immediately lost her composure. What did you say? Who dares to trick the Dracula family? I don't know. I only got some information from Murphy, but it's not confirmed yet. Rather than being Chen Zhao's employee, Murphy was more like a junior. Chen Zhao helped Agnes watch over and educate Murphy. What Chen Zhao cared about was the Dracula family behind Murphy. Whether it was useful or not, it wasn't a bad thing. Then I'll have to trouble you to help me check it out. You're not coming. You're his mother. I'm not free. Agnes said. After communicating with Agnes, Chen Zhao reluctantly took over this troublesome matter. Originally, he was too lazy to ask. He just wanted to leave it to Murphy's mother. In the end, Agnes left it to him again. The next day, "Hello, Mr. Chen, are you free today?" Denver called Chen Zhao. "What is it?" Chen Zhao asked. "The brewery is hiring a few managers. If it's convenient, come and interview with us." Denver's attitude was clear, giving Chen Zhao enough respect. By now, the brewery had pretty much recruited all the regular employees. They were all residents of Mountain Town. However, the managers couldn't recruit residents of Mountain Town. After all, Chen Zhao had a bit of a relationship with the town government. If even the managers were residents of Mountain Town, they might be controlled by others if there was a conflict of interest in the future. So, after discussing with Denver, Chen Zhao decided to expand the recruitment range. People from Mountain Town could also come for interviews, but only Chen Zhao and Denver could decide if they could become managers. Unless there were people in Mountain Town that the brewery couldn't live without, Chen Zhao and Denver wouldn't consider residents of Mountain Town. The only person who could be considered a manager was Bant, the production director. However, with Chen Zhao and Bant's relationship, Bant would definitely stand on his side if there was a conflict with the town government. This had nothing to do with benefits. It was purely because of Bant's personality. The brewery had already started production, but due to the lack of managers, Denver had to do many things himself. This wouldn't do, so before the beer was officially released, they had to find managers of all levels. Other than Denver and Chen Zhao, the only interviewee today was Bant. Denver had published it in the newspaper before, so there were quite a lot of people interviewing. From product managers to department heads, they had to hire everyone. More than 10 people were interviewed in the morning. 2 of them were decided on the spot. The rest had to be considered. The interviews continued in the afternoon. The first person who came in was a slightly chubby man in his 40s. However, the man didn't look very well dressed. His clothes were a bit old. Chen Zhao looked at the man. Why did he look so familiar? Where had he seen him before? When the man saw Chen Zhao, he froze for a moment. Then he lowered his head. Chapter 1363. Chen Zhao felt that the man looked familiar. Denver, show me his information. Ash Roford, a finance major from New York University. But what surprised Chen Zhao the most was his parole certificate. In other words, Ash Roford had a criminal record. Usually, most companies wouldn't hire someone with a criminal record. Plus, this job was an executive. Moreover, Ash Roford was still on parole. As long as they didn't break the law and didn't leave the city where they were detained, they could choose to work. But the chances of finding a job were very low. Which position are you interviewing for? Chen Zhao looked up at Ash Roford. When Ash saw Chen Zhao, he'd already given up hope. So, he was flustered by Chen Zhao's sudden question. His mind was a mess. Bant and Denver both shook their heads. Ash had good education and work experience, but his biggest problem was that he had a criminal record. America had always been abnormal when it came to people's rights. Although they said that they wanted people's rights above all else, discrimination was still everywhere. Even people like Bant and Denver subconsciously rejected Ash Roford. Right now, Ash Roford's dressing was already very bad. Coupled with such an unconventional response, in their hearts, they had already excluded Ash Roford from the list. Sir, we'll let you know if there's any news. Next, please. Denver didn't give him any more chances. Continue with the interviews, Chen Zhao said. I'm going out for a walk. Chen Zhao left the office and chased after Ash. Wait. Chen Zhao stopped Ash Roford. Seeing Chen Zhao chase after him, Ash's expression grew ugly. Sir, have we met before? Chen Zhao asked directly. He didn't want to beat around the bush. He just wanted to get to the bottom of things. Ash bowed at Chen Zhao. I'm sorry, sir. I've done very bad things to you. Did I do something bad to myself? Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. There weren't many people in the world who could do something bad to him. As for this abject man in front of her, she really couldn't see how he had the ability to do anything bad to her. The more Chen Zhao thought about it, the more confused he became. He kept thinking that Ash Roford was related to the supernatural world. But no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't remember. At the airport in Hawaii, Ash Roford said. Chen Zhao suddenly remembered the bearded man who had held him hostage. Ash Roford was the bearded man who held him hostage at the airport in Hawaii. He used to have a big beard, but now it was completely shaved. No wonder he felt that Ash Roford was very familiar, but he just couldn't remember where he had seen him before. At the time, Ash Roford had held him hostage and wanted to see his daughter. Actually, Chen Zhao didn't hate Ash Roford at all. It was the worst of his wretched luck that Ash Roford had taken him hostage on the spot. Even if Gimli didn't interfere, Ash Roford wouldn't be able to harm Chen Zhao. Moreover, Ash Roford had said that he wanted to see his daughter. Chen Zhao, the girl's slave, could empathize with her. Let's go, Chen Zhao said. I'll treat you to lunch. Ash Roford looked at Chen Zhao, rather hesitant. What? You don't want to go? Ash Roford looked at Chen Zhao. Right now, he really wanted someone to treat him to lunch. At noon, he bought a hamburger in town to fill his stomach. His body was a little weak now. I still have to go to other places for interviews, Ash Roford said. Chen Zhao looked at him. You know that you're still on parole. You can't find a job, at least not a good one. Then I have to work hard too, Ash Roford said. I don't have custody of my daughter, but if I can find a job that pays more than $1,000 a week, I can see my daughter once a month. You can't visit her if you don't have money. Chen Zhao really didn't understand. I'm still receiving welfare, Ash Roford said. Ash Roford said, if I can't find a job in 2 weeks, the judge will think that I'm a danger to society, so forget about visitation rights, I might have to go back to prison. It was very difficult for a parolee to find a job with a decent income. What did you do before? I was a stock analyst 3 years ago, but after I divorced my wife and lost custody of my daughter, I also lost my job. I've been living on welfare. What position are you interviewing for now? Sales manager, Ash Roford said. You have a tracking device on you, right? Chen Zhao asked. Ash Roford pulled up his pants. Chen Zhao saw that he was wearing a tracking device on his ankle. If he moved outside of Los Angeles or even near the border, he might attract surveillance. Are you sure you can do this job? I studied financial management, Ash Roford said. Ash Roford said, I've worked in many companies as a HR manager, a finance manager, and a sales manager. But if the company wants you to go on a business trip, you can't even leave Chen Zhao said. It's not impossible, Ash Roford said. I need to apply to the police and the company also needs to help me prove it, but I definitely can't leave the country. Chen Zhao had seen Ash Roford's file before. His file was indeed very outstanding. Usually, people like him wouldn't work at the brewery and wouldn't be able to stay either. The people who came for the interview today had decent qualifications, but half of them would leave in less than a year. For them, working in a brewery might just be a springboard, a place to gain experience. How many years are you sentenced to? 1 year, Ash Roford said. Chen Zhao took out his phone. Denver, there's someone for the sales manager position. To Ash's astonishment, Chen Zhao said, let's go. Can you eat with me now? You're the boss here. Ash had thought that Chen Zhao was an executive here. But if he was just an executive, he wouldn't be able to get another executive position with just a phone call. Sir. Thank you. I hope that you won't bring any trouble to my brewery in the next year. Is that okay? Chapter 1364. Ash Roford was starving. It was hard to starve to death in this country, but without money, one could really starve. Roford, how long has it been since you last ate? Ashford raised his head awkwardly and looked at Chen Zhao. He was still holding a sandwich covered in ketchup. His expression was awkward. Sorry. I'm really short on money recently. I only eat 1 meal a day. It's okay. Do you want more? If it's okay, give me 2 more burgers, beef burgers. Ashford didn't refuse. He really wanted to eat his fill. After all, he really didn't have much money left. I'll lend you this 1,000. Chen Zhao took out his wallet and tossed it on the table. He could also tell that Ash Rockford was really poor. Chen Zhao waved at the waitress. A waitress walked up. Mr. Chen, what can I do for you? Sandwiches and beef burgers, please. Chen Zhao didn't come to this restaurant often, but he was quite famous in Mountain Town. A quarter of the town worked in his factory. Plus, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai usually drove the eye-catching Porsche 918 when they went out. It was hard for the people in town not to know him. Who didn't know the richest man in Mountain Town? Okay, please wait a moment. The rent in town is cheaper, Chen Zhao said. You can find a place to stay first. Mr. Chen. Don't you blame me for what I did. I'm a father too. Chen Zhao didn't blame Ashford in the first place. Plus, there was nothing wrong with having Ashford work for him. He trusted Denver, but he still needed someone to watch over him. Chen Zhao would never overestimate human nature. Absolute power would only breed absolute corruption. If he couldn't control Denver, who knew if he'd change the name of the brewery to Ashford? Legally, this couldn't happen. But there were always people in the world who could find loopholes in the law. It was highly possible that one's business would become someone else's without them knowing. Chen Zhao wasn't an expert in this, so he had to be careful. Just then, his phone rang. Eat first. I need to take a call. Mr. Chen, please help yourself. Chen Zhao walked out of the restaurant and picked up the call. Hello, who is this? Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm the business manager of Seagate. My name is Oliver Lerby. Mr. Steven gave me your contact number. Mr. Steven said that you plan to book a yacht. Is that true? Yes. Our company currently has a few models of yachts. I will send them to you for you to take a look and choose from. I don't like those standard ones. I want a unique one. Can your company customize it? Sure, but a custom-made yacht will cost at least $30 million. May I know how much Mr. Chen is planning to spend? $100 million. Oliver Lawbill shuddered. A super yacht. This was a huge business. Even their Seagate Yacht Company, which had been established for more than 20 years, had only built 2 super yachts. One of them was custom-made by Steven last year. He did not expect Steven to introduce him to a second super client like this. Mr. Chen, when do you have time? Let's meet up. At the same time, I will bring my company's designers to discuss the yacht design with you. Tomorrow. Is that okay? Yes, of course, Oliver Lawbill said immediately. Even if Qin Zhao requested to meet in the middle of the night, he would bring the designers. The next day, Qin Zhao went to the headquarters of Seagate Yacht Company in Los Angeles as promised. Seagate was a European company. Europe was the largest yacht supplier in the world, even stronger than America. It wasn't that their technology was very good or that their technology was very high. It was because people thought that Europeans could make yachts like works of art with their artistic senses. Of course, Europeans were especially attentive to big yachts and super yachts. Anyone who could afford such a yacht was either rich or respectable. Therefore, yachts were made with the highest quality. Hello, Mr. Qin. I'm Oliver Lawbill. Oliver Lawbill had probably already gotten Qin Zhao's information from Stephen. When Qin Zhao stepped into the company, Oliver Lawbill and a group of designers were already waiting at the door. Europeans were not all arrogant. It depended on who they were dealing with. If they were dealing with a big client like Qin Zhao, they would kneel down and let Qin Zhao ride them even if he asked them to. Qin Zhao was invited into the meeting room. After everyone sat down, they started discussing with Qin Zhao. There was also a beautiful female secretary who poured tea for Qin Zhao from time to time. She would also throw flirtatious glances at Qin Zhao. This was probably Oliver Lawbill's idea. For custom-made yachts, the yacht company would first come up with the design plan and then the buyer would pay the deposit. Seagate was no exception. They first asked about Qin Zhao's personal needs and preferences. What was the difference between a super yacht and a regular one? Apart from being big, the most important thing was that it could sail in the ocean. It wasn't like the yacht company could make it whatever Qin Zhao wanted. Yacht design was a very complicated project involving mechanics, physics, and dynamics. Just like an architect, there were many problems to consider. Yachts had a grading system too. They were graded by the International CE organization. There were 4 grades: A, B, C, and D. CE A was the highest grade. It could withstand wind above level 8 and waves below 4 meters. Currently, there were also Chinese manufacturers that had obtained CE certification. Super yachts were not in these 4 grades, because in the deep ocean, wind and waves were basically level 8 and above. The first thing to consider for a super yacht was the client's requirements. Even if the client wanted a yacht that could withstand level 16 waves, the designer could design it, but it would definitely sacrifice the comfort of the yacht. In that case, it would be better to just buy an ocean boat. Therefore, the yacht designer had to combine a lot of data and the client's requirements to design. Although there were only 5 designers in the conference room, there were actually dozens of design teams behind these 5 designers. Their job was to improve and optimize the structure and aesthetics of the yacht as much as possible while meeting the client's requirements. Next was the engine. It could be said that every super yacht's engine was different. They were all specially designed and built to suit the super yacht. Since he had sailed many times last year and this year, Qin Zhao's first requirement was wind and wave resistance and comfort. As for the aesthetics of the whole, Qin Zhao had no idea for now. Chapter 1365. After leaving Seagate, Orf Colby personally walked Qin Zhao to the door. Qin Zhao liked Seagate yachts, but if they couldn't come up with a design that satisfied him, he might change companies. Therefore, before signing the contract, Orf Colby had to serve Qin Zhao like a grandson. After leaving Seagate, Qin Zhao picked up his phone and dialed another number. Hey, Mr. Francis, are you free now? Of course. Where should we meet? The outdoor cafe on North Street. I'll be there in half an hour. Qin Zhao sat in the outdoor cafe. A while later, a man with messy hair sat before Qin Zhao. Hi, you're Mr. Qin, right? I'm Francis Paco. Hi, Francis. Chen Zhao shook hands with Francis. I heard from Rasfa that you have a wide range of businesses, right? I do most of them. Francis scratched his already messy hair. There were oil stains on his suit and he probably hadn't shaved for a few days. Francis seemed to notice Chen Zhao's gaze and grinned. You think I don't care about my appearance? Are you doubting my abilities? It seemed that it wasn't his first time in such a situation. He wasn't surprised by Chen Zhao's scrutinizing gaze. Chen Zhao tilted his head. He didn't doubt Francis's abilities, but he had bad breath. Let's get to the point, Chen Zhao said. Here's his information. Help me investigate the woman he's been seeing recently. The more detailed, the better. Here's a deposit of $10,000. If you can find something that satisfies me, I'll give you another $20,000. Chen Zhao said, I have a subordinate. He might have been tricked. Here's his information. Mr. Chen, you're wrong. My price might not be $30,000. Francis reached for the $10,000 bag. Chen Zhao suddenly pressed down on the bag. Fine, tell me how much. Francis pulled twice but didn't move the bag. It depends on the difficulty of the target. If it's a Hollywood star, it's not just $20,000. Since you don't think it's enough, our cooperation ends here. I'll find someone else, Chen Zhao said indifferently. At the same time, he took back the bag with the money. This coffee is on me. Goodbye. Don't. Wait. Francis clearly needed money. Seeing how Chen Zhao gave money so easily, he thought that he could put on airs and ask for more. In the end, Chen Zhao didn't fall for it at all. He just turned around and left. Francis hurriedly pulled Chen Zhao back. I was joking. I'm very satisfied with this reward. Not just a Hollywood star. Even if you want me to investigate the person in the White House, I'll do it for you. Chen Zhao nodded. Oh, then help me investigate the one in the White House. Don't joke around, Mr. Chen. I'll try my best to find out what you want. Francis looked at Chen Zhao seriously. Then I'll wait for your good news. That deposit. Chen Zhao took out the money bag again and tossed it before Francis. Goodbye. Just then, Chen Zhao received another call from Rasfa. Chen, come to my house for a drink. Oh, I'm out of beer. Bring some over. Fuck, that beer is a trial product. We only made one batch. It'll be a while before it's officially produced. Where do you want me to get beer now? I don't have any. Chen Zhao had so many friends. 2 boxes for one person, 2 boxes for another person, and a few dozen boxes from the headquarters of the association. They were long gone. Unless Chen Zhao had the beer factory open the production line now, but was that possible? The first batch was to check if there were any problems with the production line, as well as the taste and so on. Are there only 3 boxes of beer in your trial product? No, there are a few hundred boxes. Most of them are used for promotion. Then bring some more of that meat, Rasfa said greedily. I'm out of that meat too. I still have some octopus fish. Do you want some? Okay. Octopus is fine too. Chen, where did you get your supply from? Rasfa asked, unwilling to give up. I can't tell you. I can't break the rule. Chen Zhao first went home and changed his truck. Then he chose some ingredients. However, the ingredients he chose were the kind that couldn't be seen clearly. For example, octopus. Chen Zhao would only cut off a portion. Those who didn't know would only think that the octopus was huge. Chen Zhao still had an even better ingredient, the undying bird. However, Chen Zhao didn't share it. Only the people of the association had eaten it. The undying bird could increase some magic power and physical fitness. It also had super high magic power, so it tasted better than regular magical creatures after cooking. Jerlin and Phalai both really liked the thick soup made from the undying bird's bones. Chen Zhao arrived at Rasfa's manor. Stephen was there too. Stephen, you're here again. Aren't you supposed to be in the studio? Chen Zhao remembered that before Stephen's last movie was released, Stephen had spent half a month editing the movie without sleep or rest. I have plenty of time now. I don't have to rush at all. Stephen was very relaxed. By the way, Stephen, the first trailer has been released. The response isn't that great, Rasfa said. We're still talking about the theaters. I don't care. That's your problem. We can't take less than 65% of the box office. That's hard. The theaters keep saying that it's not produced by the Big Six, so they insist on taking 40% of the box office, 40% of the box office. Those vampires. I definitely won't agree. It's my work. Isn't my name worth 65%? They think that your new movie has a similar theme to Furious Police, so they think that you're relying on your past and won't be as successful as Furious Police. Then they'll wait and see. Stephen yelled angrily. However, Stephen also knew that the theaters were the end of the movie industry. If they fell out, it wouldn't benefit anyone. There's no rush, Rasfa said. The release date isn't set yet. Plus, 4 countries' distribution companies have contacted PLM, wanting to import your movie. If they can't, Stephen said, then we'll release it overseas first. Chapter 1366. The 3 ate as much as they could today. They didn't even drink much. It wasn't that Rasfa's family didn't have good wine. There were still a few bottles of purple brew in the cellar. However, Rasfa couldn't bear to take them out. He wasn't used to other wines either. Stephen's mouth was sore from all the talking, but he still didn't let Rasfa take out the purple brew no matter how he mocked him. Stephen and Rasfa mostly talked about the new movie. Chen Zhao would occasionally add a sentence, but most of the time, he couldn't. Otherwise, they would talk about which female star was pretty and who had done some shady deals. Only then did Chen Zhao realize that these two were really gossipy. Rebecca, you've been waiting for me for a long time, right? Murphy hurriedly got out of the car. He looked at Rebecca, who was sitting on a chair in the park. Rebecca said with a sweet smile, "No, I just finished filming." "I'll definitely come earlier next time," Murphy said. "Are you still working the night shift?" Rebecca asked. "Yes," Murphy said helplessly. "I only have night shifts. Let's go for a walk." Looking at Rebecca's back, Murphy wanted to hold her hand several times, but he didn't have enough courage. Rebecca seemed to notice Murphy behind her. She turned around to look at him and then reached out to hold his hand. Murphy shuddered. It was probably his first time holding a girl's hand in his life. Even though they'd gone on a few dates, he still couldn't make any progress. This was unimaginable in this country. In America, when a couple officially started dating, the girl would say that she'd already canceled the apartment and moved to his place today before the guy even said anything. This was the norm in this society. It wasn't like Murphy and Rebecca who played innocent for so long. There weren't many people in the park. Now that it was evening, there were even fewer people. Just then, there was a flash in the distance. Rebecca and Murphy both noticed the flash. They turned around and saw a figure hurrying away. "Who's that?" "Paparazzi." Rebecca's expression darkened. "Huh? What do we do? Will you be exposed? Will your company give you trouble?" What do we do now? Murphy was at a loss. It's all my fault. I'm sorry for getting you into trouble. What should I do now? Rebecca smiled and said, It's okay. The paparazzi probably didn't get my face, but we can't stay here. Let's go somewhere else. Yes, yes. Murphy nodded repeatedly. Where are we going now? Let's find a restaurant. I haven't finished eating yet. Sorry, it's all my fault for coming too late. But the paparazzi might take pictures of us in a normal restaurant, Rebecca said. Then let's go to a high-class restaurant. Those paparazzi definitely won't be able to get in, Murphy braced himself and said. However, he was calculating in his heart how much salary he had left for this month. I've had enough of this life. I don't want to be a star anymore. Rebecca said, even when I'm with you, I have to be sneaky. It's like I'm a thief. I've had enough of that. It's better if you don't become a celebrity. Murphy didn't know how to respond to Rebecca's complaints, so he could only go along with her. But, sigh, forget it. Rebecca shook her head. What happened? Nothing. Rebecca shook her head again. The two of them found a restaurant. Looking at the prices on the menu, Murphy felt dizzy. The minimum cost here was $1,000. Murphy had a toothache. Murphy, don't order too much, Rebecca said. I don't have much appetite. It wasn't Murphy's first time going out with Rebecca. He'd seen her appetite before. Although Rebecca had a slender figure, she wasn't very tall either. She was only 1.62 meters tall. But her appetite was even bigger than Murphy's, very big. Murphy's staple food was blood, so he didn't usually eat outside. Occasionally, he would eat the cows in Chen Zhao's house and suck some blood from them. Of course, he could also eat regular food, but he didn't really eat much. Rebecca was different. Her appetite was 3 or 4 times that of a regular person. So, when Rebecca said she didn't have much appetite, it was only relative. Murphy still ordered a table full of dishes. Rebecca didn't stand on ceremony with Murphy either. Whenever Rebecca ate, she didn't look like a lady at all. She didn't look like a celebrity at all. Murphy really didn't have an appetite. He watched Rebecca eat with admiration in his eyes. Why aren't you eating? Oh. Murphy took a casual bite, but he still couldn't move his eyes away from Rebecca. Rebecca wiped her face clean and returned to being a lady. When it was time to pay, Murphy looked at the $1,325 bill and took out his card helplessly. Thankfully, he'd saved some money after he started working. Otherwise, he'd probably max out his credit card for this 1-month date. Let's go watch a movie, Rebecca said. Murphy glanced at the time and looked at Rebecca awkwardly. Rebecca, I have to go to work. Murphy, what exactly do you do? Why are you working at this time? I'm a security guard for a museum. The museum is open during the day. I'm only needed to patrol at night. I see. Then be careful. Rebecca held Murphy's right hand. If there's any danger, don't be rash. Okay, got it. Murphy felt that his whole body had softened. Feeling the warmth from Rebecca's hand and the gentle look in her eyes, Lin Sanju felt a chill down his spine. Murphy didn't know how he got home. After sending Murphy to the car, Rebecca's face immediately darkened. She sensed that someone was watching her. Who was watching her? Rebecca couldn't find anyone who was watching her. Could it be someone Murphy hired? Impossible. That idiot didn't notice at all. Also, who was the person who took pictures of her in the park? Who was investigating her? After Murphy left, Rebecca didn't have to pretend to be a celebrity anymore. She just walked on the street. She wanted to draw out the person who was watching her. Just then, a car stopped next to Rebecca. Rebecca. Rebecca stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look. Ossolice. Rebecca looked at Ossolice in surprise. Why are you here? I should be the one asking you why you're here. Rebecca looked at Ossolice's car. Is this your car? You seem to be rich. Ossolice stared at Rebecca. Are you still doing what you're used to? Hee hee. That's all I can do. Leave Los Angeles. Don't do that in Los Angeles, Ossolice said in a warning tone. Why do you care? Rebecca looked at Ossolice angrily. You have no right to. Chapter 1367. Rebecca put her hands on the door of Ossolice's car. She suddenly grinned viciously. Ossolice, are you molesting me? I'm reminding you. I don't need reminding. Rebecca looked at Ossolice coldly. Los Angeles isn't your place. Rebecca's hands suddenly tightened, and Ossolice's car door was deformed. Ossolice frowned. You're still as violent as ever. Rebecca suddenly reached into the car and grabbed Ossolice's collar. Is this the first day you've met me? Ossolice stared back at Rebecca fearlessly. You'd better let go. Ossolice, you're still the same as before. All you can do is talk. I'm not who I used to be, said Ossolice. So what? Do you think? Rebecca was full of disdain for Ossolice. Ossolice's figure began to disappear, and Rebecca felt her hand loosen. She couldn't touch Ossolice's collar anymore. Rebecca looked around. Ossolice, are you still the same as before? You only know how to hide. Suddenly, a bloody mark appeared on Rebecca's neck. Rebecca snorted. She knew what Ossolice was capable of. However, in her eyes, Ossolice was a coward who only knew how to hide and run. But today, Ossolice had actually dared to attack her. Suddenly, Rebecca sensed danger and immediately took 2 steps back. But the next moment, Rebecca felt a stab of pain in her back. Rebecca angrily swung her fist in a 360-degree arc. However, she only swung her fist and didn't touch anything. The next moment, another bloody mark appeared on Rebecca's wrist. Although Ossolice's 3 attacks hadn't hurt her seriously, it was a great humiliation for the hot-tempered Rebecca to be attacked and injured by a woman who was as timid as a mouse. Ossolice, you're still as cowardly as before. Do you dare come out? The next moment, a tuft of Rebecca's hair fell. Rebecca reached out to catch her hair, a little surprised. Leave Los Angeles, or it'll be your face next time. Ossolice's voice sounded in Rebecca's ears. Rebecca swung her fist again, but again, she missed. Suddenly, Rebecca saw a man standing in front of her. The man carried a briefcase and wore a suit and tie. He looked like a white-collar worker. Rebecca immediately charged at the man. The man did not seem to know what was going on. Rebecca reached for the man. But the next moment, Rebecca felt pain on her face. She looked at the man again and took a few steps back. Rebecca was enraged and reached out to grab the man again. Not only did he fail to catch her, he even received a slap. Rebecca picked up speed and grabbed again. This time, she saw the man's movements clearly. She took a step back and slapped him. She did see it clearly, but the man's movements were too fast. She couldn't keep up at all, and her body couldn't react in time. Rebecca was slapped again. Covering her face, she stared at the man in shock. This man wasn't an ordinary person either. He was a spiritualist too. Clearly, he was a spiritualist of a completely different element. She used a strength-enhancing spell, while the man used a speed-enhancing spell. She was at a disadvantage in front of him. Rebecca took a few steps back and stared at the man in front of her. This man and Osalisa were probably in cahoots. She couldn't do anything to Osalisa anymore. With this man around, her chances of winning were even lower. Rebecca turned around and left without any hesitation. Seeing that Rebecca had left, Osalisa finally came out of invisibility. "Enrich, why are you here?" Osalisa asked. "I live nearby and saw you and that woman," Enrich said. "Who's that woman?" "My sister," Osalisa said. "Your sister? She doesn't look like your sister at all." "She looks like a lunatic," Enrich said. "She's a lunatic." Osalisa didn't dare tell him about Rebecca's glorious past. If the association knew that such a dangerous person existed in Los Angeles, they would definitely take action or eliminate her. Osalisa had thought that after 10 years, Rebecca might have changed. She didn't expect that Rebecca would still be as violent as before. That made Osalisa even more worried. If Rebecca did anything outrageous in Los Angeles, she probably wouldn't be able to protect her. In fact, if Rebecca were to meet her own leader, she would most likely die. She looks quite violent. "You'd better find her quickly and get her out of Los Angeles," said Enrich. Osalisa understood what Enrich was trying to say. "Don't tell the chairman about this," said Osalisa. "Okay, I won't tell him." Enrich nodded. "How about a drink somewhere?" asked Osalisa. Rebecca touched the wound on her neck. It had completely healed. That was the benefit of strengthening spells. She had super self-healing abilities. However, running into Osalisa here didn't make Rebecca feel very happy. She hadn't seen Osalisa for 10 years. Osalisa, who only knew how to hide and run in the past, didn't run anymore but attacked her. Rebecca didn't expect that. His weak sister had actually undergone such a change. Also, she knew how to use her spells better than before. Could she really change so much in 10 years? Rebecca and Osalisa weren't real sisters. Their parents formed a new family, and they became sisters too. But a car accident took their mother's life, and their father's personality changed drastically. He drank, abused, and even tried to rape Osalisa. That was the first time Rebecca killed someone. Their father. They found the secret of magic in their mother's belongings, and Osalisa was the first to awaken. At the time, they didn't understand what the Night of Awakening was, but Rebecca had protected Osalisa through that horrible night without any magic. When Rebecca awakened, she also relied on her own strength to get through it. From then on, they relied on their magic and began a life of theft and robbery. Unlike the gentle and timid Osalisa, Rebecca was a thug and a murderer. As long as it was for money, she would stop at nothing, even murder. Chapter 1368. That's basically it. I haven't seen her in 10 years. Osalisa took a sip of her beer. Looks like your sister is really dangerous, Enrich said. If I had known, I wouldn't have let her go. I would have forced her to stay. Osalisa had wanted to prevent Rebecca from falling into the hands of the association. But now that she thought about it, she was wrong. It would be better to keep Rebecca here and beg for her life. That way, Rebecca might not die. But if Rebecca killed someone in Los Angeles, Osalisa wouldn't even be able to ask for mercy. Then what should we do? Find her as soon as possible. She can do whatever she wants, but not in Los Angeles. Rebecca had always been a vigilant person. She didn't return to her place immediately, because she vaguely sensed that someone was following her. Was it the person who took pictures of her? Rebecca guessed. Rebecca took out a makeup box from her pocket and looked behind her through the mirror on the box. More than 20 meters behind him, there was a car that was driving very slowly, slowly following behind him. There was a lot of traffic on this road. She couldn't make a move here. She would do it in a more secluded place. Rebecca thought to herself. Francis, on the other hand, followed Rebecca carefully. He didn't think it was necessary to be careful when following a woman. He didn't know that Rebecca had already noticed him. He didn't even realize that he had been led to a secluded place by Rebecca. Rebecca felt that the time was right. She turned around and was about to make a move. Suddenly, she felt a strong sense of danger. Rebecca knew where the sense of danger came from. A sniper. She had been targeted by a sniper. Rebecca suddenly ducked. Then, a bowl-sized hole appeared on the ground next to Rebecca, and the concrete floor was kicked up with dust. A van sped over, and two men in black suits and sunglasses got out. They held machine guns and fired at Rebecca. Rebecca reacted quickly and jumped into the bushes on the side of the road. The two shooters looked at each other. One of them carefully walked to the side of the road, holding the machine gun tightly. But at that moment, a hand reached out of the bushes and grabbed the shooter's face. The hand pulled forcefully, pulling the gunman into the darkness. There was a burst of gunfire in the darkness, and then there was silence. Suddenly, gunshots rang out from the darkness again. However, this time, the gunshot was not aimed at the interior but at the minivan. The driver of the minivan was killed on the spot. The remaining gunman cursed under his breath and quickly hid behind the car. The next moment, Rebecca dashed out of the darkness. She rammed straight into the van. Bang! The 2,000-kilogram van was knocked over, and the gunman hiding in the back was pinned to the ground. Rebecca turned to look at Francis' car. Francis was scared out of his wits. He immediately turned the steering wheel and fled. Rebecca wanted to chase after him, but the sniper fired again. Rebecca fell to the ground again. She could only watch as Francis escaped. She could only find the insidious sniper first. "Mr. Chin, it's me. I'm Francis." Francis was frightened tonight. He had originally thought that she was just an ordinary woman. But he didn't expect that woman to be so terrifying. As a private detective, he had met all kinds of people. Even black. But he had never seen a real gunfight. It was too scary. How did the woman knock over the minivan? Did he see it wrong? Francis was still in a state of confusion. "Oh, Mr. Francis, did you finish the investigation so quickly?" "Investigate what?" "That woman is a killer. I saw her fighting with people on the road. She even killed 2 people. Killer?" Chen Zhao was surprised. Was the business of killers so widespread now? They were even in the business of deceiving people? As far as Chen Zhao knew, professional killers made much more than scammers. Was a small fry like Murphy really worth a professional killer putting down his identity to seduce? Francis spoke incoherently, and his words were contradictory. Chen Zhao could feel that Francis was really scared. "Continue investigating that woman for me," Chen Zhao said. No way. "That woman is too dangerous," Francis shouted. "You took my money," Chen Zhao said. "I don't care. Anyway, I won't take this investigation again. Your $10,000 is my compensation." Francis decided to go back on his word. "Mr. Francis, you're afraid of that female killer. Do you think I'm easier to bully than her?" Chen Zhao didn't care how Francis felt. Since Francis had taken his money, he had to work for him. This was the rule. "I don't want to talk about this anymore." "That's it." Francis hung up. Chen Zhao looked at the phone and turned to Fei Lai. "Fei Lai, I'm going out for a while. It's so late." Do you still have clients? Murphy met a female scammer. I found a private detective to investigate her, but he took my money and stood me up. Then you should teach him a lesson, Failai said, unconcerned. Francis was feeling uneasy at the moment. He didn't take Qin Zhao's threats seriously. Someone who could find a private detective like him to investigate probably didn't have any connections. At least, that was what he thought. What he really cared about was that woman, that terrifying woman. Would she find him? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. No, he couldn't stay here. Francis decided to leave Los Angeles first. Francis hurriedly packed his luggage. But when he walked out of his house, he saw Qin Zhao standing beside his car. Francis gathered his courage and walked up. Why are you here? Bang! Suddenly, a streak of blood appeared on Francis' cheek. A bullet flew past his face and landed on the ground beside Qin Zhao. Francis let out a cry and fell to the ground in fright. Mr. Francis, I told you that you'd regret it. Qin Zhao stood before Francis. Francis held his head, not daring to look up. No one has ever dared to take my money and stand me up. I don't know who gave you the courage. I was wrong, I was wrong. Sorry, I was wrong. Please let me go. Chapter 1369. If I can spend $30,000 to get you to investigate a woman's identity, I can spend $300,000 to buy your head. Qin Zhao stood up from the car and walked past Francis. Francis wanted to cry but had no tears. He'd thought that Qin Zhao had no one to rely on in Los Angeles because he was Asian. He didn't expect Qin Zhao to be so ruthless. If the sniper had missed just a little, Francis' head would probably have been destroyed. After leaving Francis' field of vision, Qin Zhao gestured at Klaus, who was hiding in the dark. Klaus came out with a sniper rifle. Klaus, did you do it on purpose? That's more threatening. Klaus chuckled. Qin Zhao had originally wanted Klaus to shoot Francis to scare him. In the end, Klaus showed off his marksmanship. Even Qin Zhao felt that it was a close call. By the way, President, I need to take some time off, Klaus said. Huh? What for? Something happened to a comrade. I received a call for help from his family. Qin Zhao thought about it and nodded. Have everyone in the Lightning team follow. If there's anything you can't handle, contact me. Everyone in the society will support you. Okay. Klaus nodded. But I'm leaving tomorrow. The private detective won't be able to keep an eye on me. It's fine, just a small problem, Qin Zhao said indifferently. Where are you going? Let me tell you first in case I can't find you. Did Rebecca know who had just attacked her? It was her old enemy. Back in New York, she'd attacked a mafia family. He robbed the Black Hand family of $20 million worth of gold and killed the heir of their family. All these years, Rebecca had been hiding everywhere. She'd always been low-key to avoid the mafia. It wasn't her first time being attacked like this. No matter how low-key she was, there would always be some traces. It seemed that she had to leave LA again. Rebecca was a little hesitant. That boy. Murphy. Should I go and say goodbye to him? In this cold world, perhaps only that man could bring her a little bit of warmth. That shy big boy, just a little bit of sweet talk would make him blush. Pure and kind, he was probably the last person in Rebecca's life that she wanted to hurt. However, in the end, they were not the same kind of people. Rebecca sighed. After hesitating for a while, Rebecca finally picked up the phone. Murphy, are you working now? Yeah, Rebecca, you haven't rested yet. I miss you, Rebecca said suddenly, but it seemed like she was speaking from the bottom of her heart. Even Rebecca felt shy. She had never said these words to anyone. That. Me too, you're alone in the museum. Aren't you afraid of the dark? Rebecca did not know what to say to Murphy. He swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. After a few times, he kept avoiding the main topic. Rebecca. Actually, I have something to tell you. What is it? Actually, I'm not a security guard at the museum. I'm a security guard for my boss. Oh. Rebecca didn't care. I'll be helping the boss patrol his private territory tomorrow night, Murphy said. Okay. Rebecca had wanted to say it over the phone, but she could not bring herself to do it. After thinking about it, Rebecca decided to see Murphy one last time. She wanted to say what needed to be said in person. Murphy, are you free tomorrow? Yes, Murphy replied immediately. Then let's meet at North Coast Beach. So remote. Oh, right, it's not convenient for you to expose yourself. What time should we meet? Murphy asked. Tomorrow at 4. Okay, I'll be there on time. North Coast Beach. In the 50s and 60s of the last century, it was a medium-sized fishing village. But in the 60s, the famous Memphis tsunami hit here, and the entire fishing village was almost wiped out. This disaster was basically one of the worst in American history because it happened at night. The cause of the tsunami was a magnitude 12 earthquake in the deep sea of the Pacific Ocean. Everyone in the fishing village was sleeping at the time. Because of the rainy weather, none of the fishermen went out to sea. As a result, the entire fishing village was wiped out. Of the 350 people in the village, apart from 4 young people in school, there were no other survivors. After that, the entire fishing village was abandoned. Although some developers later wanted to develop this place into a commercial beach, they all gave up in the end for inexplicable reasons. Rebecca did not like this place because it was still filled with the strong smell of death. Even after decades, it was still there. Rebecca had heard that this place was haunted, but she did not find any spirits after walking around the ruins. Rebecca sat on a stone slab by the sea and watched the turbulent waves. The sun gradually set, and Rebecca heard the rumbling of a car. Rebecca turned around and saw that it was a convertible. She was confused and a little wary. However, after the car stopped and she saw Murphy in the car, Rebecca finally let down her guard. Murphy, whose car is this? I borrowed it from the boss, Murphy said. Your boss actually lent you such a nice car? Rebecca looked at the black sports car and licked her lips inadvertently. Rebecca's occupational habit was acting up again. She was used to robbing people. But she remembered that this was Murphy's borrowed car. If she stole it, Murphy would be the unlucky one. Rebecca gave up on the idea. Your boss is very rich, right? Not just rich. Murphy shuddered. Rebecca saw the fear on Murphy's face. Are you scared of your boss? Yes, he's very scary. Murderous intent flashed in Rebecca's eyes. Is your boss fierce? Super fierce. In my eyes, he's a demon king. Then you've never seen a demon king. Rebecca smiled. She was thinking that before she left, she should help Murphy teach his boss a lesson. Looking at Rebecca's smile, Murphy was a little dazed. Do you want me to teach your boss a lesson for you? Hee. Stop joking. Nobody in the world can teach him a lesson. Not necessarily. Rebecca smiled casually. Murphy, I'm leaving Los Angeles. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.